on the basketball courts, as well as the Colorado GOP Pride email. I don't know if you saw this. God hates pride was the subject line of this email. We're going to be discussing that later in the show. And then John Carson, candidate for Douglas County Commissioner, will be joining us. So it is a jam-packed show you are not going to want to miss. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. By the way, you guys know we're on X and YouTube these days, so you can watch us live if you'd like. You can come see our smiling faces. Bill's much better looking than I am at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, you can go to watch it.
And I've got, oh, now we have some technical difficulties. But I got the bobblehead doll. I got a Donald Trump with an A, or that's an AR.
grocery store. I just want to call in about the limited amount of illegals coming over the border. It seems like the cartel is controlling quite a bit of that, so it seems like it would make it more cutthroat for these poor people that are trying to come over. Like, how are they going to cut that off now, like between the people on the ground?
I know.
Oh, yeah.
It is not something that's actually going to address the problem. And then it's, you get into all these unintended consequences too, right? You could just imagine now people are going to be rushing the border. It's going to be like, Bill, like you said, the concert, right?
Yeah,
Everyone rushes in to get in first.
Yeah, because Melissa, you've been a long-time resident here. You're familiar with old school Red Rocks and how back in the day, they would open up the gates very, very early, but the gates would be further down the hill. So you could come in and park, and then it was a foot race up the hill to see who could get into those first few rows. And then you'd hang out with your blankets and your buddies all day, waiting for the concert to start in the evening. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be okay, everybody, go! And then everyone's going to have to race to see who's going to be in those first few rows of the migrants.
Does it start at 12:01 a.m.?
I know. And how do you do it? And think about it now. You show up for concerts. Like, Melissa, I don't know if you've bought tickets recently, but if you actually go to a location, they don't let you line up and keep you in a certain order based on when you arrive. They hold a lottery. So you could arrive at 2 o'clock in the morning. Tickets could go on sale at 7 a.m., but the dude that arrived at 6:45 could pull the better lottery number, and you're messed. So they're trying to disincentivize it. I know, and that's what they could do as well. I don't know. How is this going to work? This is going to be, I think you're right, unintended consequences.
I'm worrying about kids getting stampeded, like a woman with 4 kids, and then 20 guys are behind her. I don't know, all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, Melissa. Thanks for the call. Melissa's line will be open 303-696-1971. Or text us on the 710KNUS app. Merrick Garland on Capitol Hill yesterday. Politico reporting Merrick Garland was Biden's consensus pick. Now everyone hates him. Would you love to have an article headline about you?
Yes. It's not that far off for me, but yes.
What was that show? Nobody Likes Chris or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Everybody hates Chris.
Everybody hates Chris.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it.
Merrick Garland has staked his career at the Department of Justice on being an independent attorney general. He has tapped 3 special counsels to investigate President Joe Biden, the man who nominated him, his son Hunter Biden, and former President Donald Trump. He has charged more than 1,200 January 6th defendants. He even navigated the discovery of classified documents at the home of former Vice President Mike Pence, for which he opted not to appoint a prosecutor and ultimately decided to file no charges. But rather than being revered as a straight shooter, Garland has become reviled. He's a man alone on an island in Washington, taking unyielding blowback from the right and left. On Capitol Hill Tuesday, he seemed to have finally had enough. I will not be intimidated, and the Justice Department will not be intimidated, Garland told Republican members of the House Oversight Committee as he set out to defend himself in the department against Republican attacks. What was stood out to me during his hearing yesterday was the Gates and the Massey engagement that took place with Merrick Garland, because Republicans want to find out if there are direct ties between the Department of Justice and Alvin Bragg's prosecution of Donald Trump through Michael Colangelo. That is Colangelo is the guy that came from the DOJ, who's number 3 at the DOJ, went down and worked with Alvin Bragg to prosecute Donald Trump. And does that show collusion between Joe Biden's administration and Donald Trump's administration? Here's Gates and Garland's exchange yesterday on whether or not they could just get the documents to see if there's coordination taking place.
Attorney General, you've told us that it's a dangerous conspiracy theory to allege that the Department of Justice is communicating with these state and local prosecutions against Trump. You can clear it all up for us right now. Will the Department of Justice provide to the committee all documents, all correspondence between the department and Alvin Bragg's office and Fonnie Willis's office and Letitia James's office?
The offices you're referring to are independent offices of state.
I get that.
State.
The question is whether or not you will provide all of your documents and correspondence. That's the question. I don't need a history lesson.
Well, I'm going to say again, we do not control those offices. They make their own decisions.
The question is whether you communicate with them, not whether you control them. Do you communicate with them, and will you provide those communications?
You make a request, we'll refer it to our Office of Legislative Affairs.
But see, here's the thing. You come in here and you lodge this attack that it's a conspiracy theory, that there is coordinated lawfare against Trump. And then when we say, fine, just give us the documents, give us the correspondence, and then if it's a conspiracy theory, that will be evident. But when you say, well, we'll take your request, and then we'll sort of work it through the DOJ's accommodation process, then you're actually advancing the very dangerous conspiracy theory that you're concerned about.
That was Matt Gaetz and Merrick Garland on these documents. They continue. Republicans focusing on Colangelo. This is where they think the coordination is taking place. And this is what I asked George Brockler about last week. Is Colangelo the link?
So you won't comment on it, Mr. Attorney General, but you had no problem dispatching Matthew Colangelo. Who's Matthew Colangelo?
That is false. I did not dispatch Matthew Colangelo.
Matthew Colangelo became the Assistant Attorney General at the very beginning of the Biden administration. Without having been Senate confirmed, goes and gets this senior role at the DOJ. And then after, I believe it's Gupta replaces Colangelo, Colangelo makes this remarkable downstream career journey from the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., and then pops up in Alvin Bragg's office to go get Trump. And you're saying that's just a career choice that was made that has nothing to do with the lawfare coordinated by the
saying it's false. I did not dispatch Mr. Colangelo anywhere.
Well, do you know how he ended up there?
I assume he applied for a job there and got the job.
But see, you know what?
I tell you, I had nothing to do with it.
Well, you might not have had anything to do with it, but we've got this contemporaneous evidence in Mr. Pomerantz's book. So Pomerantz writes this book, which I'm sure you're aware of, where he says, we put together the legal eagles to get Trump. We got all these folks together and we assembled them for that purpose. And so when we on the Judiciary Committee think about attacks on the judicial process, our concern is that the facts and the law aren't being followed. A target is acquired here, Trump, and then you assemble the legal talent from DOJ, Mr. Pomerantz, and you bring everybody in to get him. And meanwhile, the judge is making money on it. The judge is making money on it. The judge's family is making money on it for stuff that you yourself wouldn't do. You know, no one's going to buy this. No one's going to believe it. It's going to create great disruption. And I am saddened by it because, like you, I have given my life to the law. I care deeply about the law. And I think that the lawfare we've seen against President Trump will do great damage well beyond our time in public service. I see my time's expired. I yield back.
That is Matthew Gaetz and Merrick Garland yesterday. Fox breaking this now that a conservative nonprofit is suing the Department of Justice after it failed to release records requested under the Freedom of Information Act pertaining to Matthew Colangelo, a key figure in the New York criminal trial of former President Trump. So Republicans are moving around Matthew Colangelo and Merrick Garland. That's what they're focused in on now. Jim Jordan wants all communication documents between Alvin Bragg and the Department of Justice. They're requesting those. This committee is requesting any communications between the Department of Justice and the 4 trials taking place with Donald Trump to see if there is coordination. So it'll be I mean, there's no evidence yet, but that's where Republicans are looking.
Yeah, and then Gaetz started out there saying you dispatched him and then provided no evidence of that happening. And even when he goes back to the book, he says they assembled the team. Never in the book does it say that the Biden White House sent this dude over here so that he's going to get him with Bragg. If you're going to make a prosecution like this, you would assemble a team. You would assemble the Avengers. It doesn't mean that Superman sent Batman to the team to go do something. That's the difference. And that's why it's so funny with Gaetz' comments and his questions there. And he talks at the end about, and I've studied the law. Really? Well, then you should do a better job questioning. Because you really should do a much better job in the questions there, because those questions were crap in many ways.
I didn't think so. I thought Gaetz did great.
No, he did horrible.
No, he started
off with the premise. He started off with the premise that there was coordination and that Colangelo was
well, it's
dispatched.
A theory. There's a theory, and they're trying to get the documents to see if their theory's right. And to Gaetz' point, at the very beginning, he goes, if you just show us the documents,
then we'll see that there's nothing there. But we think there's something there, and we're an oversight committee, and we want you to provide the documents.
He wasn't dispatched, but Gates used that as the assumption. That's where he started. So he had made that conclusion in the
plenty of evidence that he was dispatched.
Not at all.
To go from number 3 Department of Justice down to just a kind of junior prosecutor.
Here's the thing.
In Manhattan's district attorney's office.
I know a large number of people that have taken a downgrade in their employment for a variety of different reasons.
Oh, Bill, come on.
What? I'm sorry. Hang on. Wait.
Way he took a downgrade just to spend more time with his family.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Wait, hang on a sec. Do you understand? My wife did the same thing.
I know, but your wife's not prosecuting Donald Trump.
Hang on. Wait. Hang on. You laughed at my suggestion that people downgrade their employment for a variety of reasons.
I laugh that you're connecting Colangelo with that.
You laughed based on the premise. People do that.
I think that your wife probably made a fine decision. I don't think that's the same decision.
No, you laughed at it earlier.
I don't think that's the same decision that Matthew Colangelo did, Bill.
Because you know exactly what he did. Come on, because it only fits your narrative. That's why you're certain about what Colangelo did. He wants to spend
more time with his family, so he's going to go prosecute Donald Trump.
Don't know. Maybe he didn't like D.C. Maybe he wanted to go back to New York. Maybe he wanted to work with his buddies. Maybe he felt like a fish out of water. I've had that experience personally where I left radio and went and did something else and felt like a fish out of water. Guess what I did? I came back and
I don't believe that with Colangelo at all. Come on.
No,
I think you're fine. I think your motives, I think your wife's motives are very noble.
No,
I don't think those.
No, you laughed.
I don't think that those are Matthew Colangelo's motives at all.
I made the broad statement. You laughed at the statement that people would do that. And that's the assumption your assumption is that nobody would do this.
No,
so obviously
I'm not saying that. Colangelo didn't do that. He did not step down to go target Donald Trump.
Again, you don't know that. I'm open to the opportunity and the idea that maybe he did that, but you've already decided it regardless of any facts at all.
There's no way he did that.
You have no proof. You have no proof of that.
Other than the fact that he did that.
Oh.
Other than the fact that he did that.
It is my turn to laugh when you say there's no proof of him doing that other than the fact he did that. We'll just put a pin on it there. Thank you. I appreciate you finally agreeing with me.
So to Gates' points, though, Garland could just clear this all up if he just sent in the documents.
Yeah. And we'll have to see what they're requesting and how big the request is. Because some of them, the idea, though, is that the way Gates presented it wasn't that they were just looking for some of the documents. They were doing a big, wide open sweep. Some of those documents may not be connected to what they're looking for, and they may not have privilege in order to have those. So there is going to be some questions. Every time you submit a request for documents, doesn't matter who you are, it always runs through a system to see about whether or not and where the parameters are. Sometimes they're over tight, sometimes they're wider. That's the process. And Gates is mad about the process. He knows the process. He's being a big, giant baby. That's all he's being. He's being a baby. I'm not saying he's the only one that does it. There are a lot of people that are big, giant babies. Adam Schiff's a big, giant, huge baby. Huge baby when he's inside of Congress. Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't make him unique.
All right. Then Thomas Massie, I thought, did fantastic yesterday because I hate these stupid special prosecutors. Whether it's Hunter Biden, Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Joe Biden, I don't like them, period, because they're not in law. And Thomas Massie points that out.
No, I'm not.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden?
No, he was not.
Was he confirmed by the Senate?
No, he was not.
When was the special counsel statute passed?
There is no special counsel statute. There was an independent counsel statute that was expired.
So it expired. So what gives you the authority to appoint a special counsel? You've created an office in the U.S. government that does not exist without authorization from Congress.
There are regulations under which the Attorney General appoints special counsel. They've been in effect for 30 years, maybe longer, under both parties. The matter that you're talking about whether somebody can have an employee of the Justice Department serve as special counsel has been adjudicated.
You appealed, let me interrupt for a second, because you appealed to a regulation, a rule, whereas the Constitution says shall be established by law.
Yeah, the statutes.
Right, the statute, but you referred to a regulation, not to U.S. code.
May I answer? The regulation cites the two U.S. code provisions that permit the Attorney General's appointment. Attorney General Barr cited to the same ones.
Are you familiar?
Even Attorney General Meese did that.
All right. Are you familiar with former Attorney General Meese's amicus brief?
No.
You're not.
I know that he's filed one because I read it in the newspapers, but otherwise I'm not familiar with it. But
Well, he raises some good questions that I agree with in there. It seems like you've created an office that would require an act of Congress, yet there's not an act of Congress that authorizes that. And even if it didn't require an act of Congress, and you've already admitted it, there was no act of Congress that established this office, it would still require, according to the Constitution, a nomination by the president and confirmation by the Senate.
So Thomas Massie, I've definitely become a lot more impressed with him over the years. And I think that targeting these special prosecutors and actually asking those questions, is this constitutional? What we're doing is exactly right. I appreciate him bringing that up with Eric Garland.
Was he mad about the Durham special appointment? The only question I have is I'm looking for consistency.
I'm sure he was, because he brings up Hunter Biden as well as some of these other special prosecutions. That's a Biden thing necessarily. So it's because it was the U.S. attorney that was investigating Biden under Trump. And again, and we have to do this now, U.S. attorney appointed by Trump, because somehow that damn matters anymore. But still, but it was a special prosecutor appointed by Biden. My guess is he's doing this politically. He's only mad that Biden is putting... Massey is far more constitutional.
And again, I would love to go back and see what his opinion was on Durham.
Yeah.
Just like, because if he didn't complain about Durham, he needs to shut his pie hole. Just like anybody who complained about Durham and doesn't complain about Jack Smith, again, shut up. I don't want to hear from you. I have a little bit of intellectual consistency.
Yeah, right.
But unfortunately, this is more about scoring points. These type of hearings are far more about scoring points and getting sound bites and fundraising off of it than actually doing a dang thing. None of those people in that room were actually interested in getting to the bottom of the issue. They were just interested in either supporting Garland or making a mess of him. That's all it was.
Do you think these special prosecutors are doing good things for our country?
It's the thing is, I don't like the question. I think the special prosecutors are becoming a problem. And I think we're going to have more and more of them. But here's the reason. They're a problem because we created it. And here's the reason why. Just what I mentioned earlier. The U.S. prosecutor that was going after Hunter Biden, appointed by Trump. Yep. We now have to say this person's appointed by.
Yep.
This person's appointed by.
Yep.
And there is an assumption right now in this country that Joe Biden has weaponized the Department of Justice. And it has gone so amok. They have gone so crazy. They're prosecuting all of his political enemies and his family. That's how crazy it is. Because obviously, it's all coordinated. And since we've gotten to that assumption, we now have to have special prosecutors. Because nobody on the other side of the aisle politically, regardless of who's in the White House, is going to believe any DOJ investigation. Because they are now going to say it's run by the White House. So anytime you want to investigate anybody else, the opposite party, you're going to have to appoint a special prosecutor. And it's our own stupid fault because we did it.
Yeah.
Because we say it on the air. Because we make these stupid assumptions. Our fault. So we can't sit there and complain about the number of special prosecutors going to be appointed because we're the dummies that are asking for them.
I don't think they're constitutional. If they want to be constitutional, to Thomas Massie's point, it needs to be an act of Congress. It cannot be regulatory rules within an executive agency that creates these special prosecutors. So because they have become too political, and I don't think there's not enough oversight on them.
Yeah,
so
there's a problem with that, with Massie's assumption and the idea of inside the Constitution. That means that if the right party controls one branch, no special prosecutor. Ever.
No, his point is that the office needs to be created as a legislative, not this particular
but he's also
prosecutor.
Saying, but he's also saying that the prosecutors have to then be approved. So if you control the Senate, he asked
you're right.
So the idea being
was that him?
Yeah, and the idea being, if
was that Colangelo?
No, he was talking about the special prosecutor. Had he been, because it was part of the rules,
yeah.
And so had he been confirmed, so confirmation runs for the Senate. So if the Democrats control the Senate and you want to investigate a Democrat, no special prosecutor, doesn't matter. Does not matter.
I would much rather have the conversation about what the nature of that office looks like and how it's created and how there's oversight on it than leaving it to an administrative rulemaking within the executive branch, which is where it is now.
Yeah, I would much rather us get to a point where our first assumption isn't this is done legally because of politics. I would love to get back to that assumption. Can we stop putting the conclusion before we actually hear what's going on? But we're not going to do that.
All right. Lots of phone calls. We do have one open line. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Bill, I want to put a bow on this, and I need to apologize if I inferred that your wife was stepping down, was not honorable or anything like that. I did not mean to do that. I apologize.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I appreciate why you focused on Colangelo. And I understand
the focus was, I don't think there's a tie between your wife's noble focus and concern on her family and Michael Colangelo and the prosecution of Donald Trump. That's where I think we have a difference. But if I communicated that in the wrong way, I apologize.
I appreciate that, my friend. I appreciate it. And I understand your point about the fact and why you'd be laughing at the statement in connection to Colangelo. And perhaps I was too sensitive at the time as well. And perhaps I took it incorrectly. And your intent in the communication, because this is a dyadic relationship, is important. I can't discount your intent in that communication ever in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that you were laughing at that,
appreciate you saying that.
I appreciate that, my friend. So thank you.
Holy cow. Can we actually bridge some gaps today? We will on the Jeff and Bill Show. All right, give us a call. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Opening statements were delivered to the jury on Tuesday in Hunter Biden's federal gun charges trial. In a court in Wilmington, Delaware, prosecutors said that President Joe Biden's son lied about his illegal drug use when he bought a gun back in 2018. The defense said that the 54-year-old had, quote, no intent to deceive. Mr. Biden has pled not guilty to the 3 charges against him. He's also facing federal tax charges in the state of California. U.S. lawmakers are set to vote on whether to protect access to contraception at a national level, 2 years after the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortion. Tony Waterman has more.
Ever since Roe was overturned, Democrats have warned it was just the tip of the iceberg. And this vote in the Senate is really a way to force Republicans, many of whom have voted in favor of abortion bans, to stake out a position on contraception in an election year where reproductive rights are top of mind for a lot of voters. This bill is unlikely to get the 60 votes needed to pass. GOP leaders say many Republicans support contraception, but they don't believe legislation is needed to protect access to it. And they believe this vote is nothing more than political showmanship.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
All right, we're off and running on the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's start with Joan in Lakewood. Joan, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're fired up this morning. How are you?
Well, I have a couple of things. I have the point that I made with Billy off the air that there is a congressional oversight committee in the House up there.
Yeah.
And it got so politicized that they actually created a congressional oversight committee that's outside of the House.
There's an oversight committee for the oversight committee?
It's an ethics committee, okay?
Yeah.
It's their ethics committee. They have the Congressional Ethics Oversight Committee within the House, and then they have an Ethics Oversight Committee that's a separate agency outside the House. And it's because the ethics complaints never worked out. And so,
but now, Joan, you're right about that. And here's the thing, isn't it? Doesn't it say a heck of a lot about our lawmakers and who we're sending to Congress when the ethics committee inside of the House wasn't working? So they had to create a secondary ethics committee. And even that is questionable about how it's working.
Classic government. Classic government.
Yeah,
No.
I've actually complained about somebody to both of them, and nothing ever happened. So it's a good time. But I did want to talk to you a little bit about the egg and the environment meeting that I went to yesterday.
Oh, yeah. How was that with the Common Sense Institute?
Great. I really enjoyed myself. DJ Summers did this presentation before they did the panel. There were some fun facts that they passed out this wonderful, beautiful fact sheet with all these graphs and stuff like that. And you can actually go to their website, and you go to their website, and then they have a whole bunch of list of things, and you go to the local issues. And under the local issues, there is a snapshot of the homeless in the Denver metro area in 2023.
Yeah, Common Sense Institute does great work. I was using their data. They're the ones who found out that the cost of illegal immigrants in Denver is likely closer to $300 million, not $90 million that Mike Johnston said. And I was on Jenna Ellis's show yesterday talking about that. Great work, great organization. Joan, thanks so much for the call. Really appreciate you. Appreciate Common Sense Institute. If you want just the facts, ma'am, that's Common Sense Institute. Let's go to Karen Edgewater. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Karen.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I am absolutely embarrassed to be associated with Dave Williams. His disparaging of the LGBT community is not representative of my views or any Republicans that I know. He makes us all look like haters.
Talk to me, and what you're referencing, Karen, is an email that the Colorado Republican Party sent out that said, God hates pride. On the state party Twitter account, they're calling for the burning of pride flags. Karen, now the Republican Party platform, the actual big one, the one that the national party puts out, does talk about its commitment to marriage as marriage between one man and one woman. Do you agree with the Republican Party platform and its commitment to traditional marriage?
I don't agree with the entire Republican Party platform. And no, I don't think that we need to have that in our platform at all. I don't know why it's there. We should simply be about common sense policies that benefit everyone. We should be all about fairness, and we shouldn't be haters.
So tell me, Karen, where you draw the line, though. For instance, transing kids getting surgeries under the age of 18 that make them sterile for the rest of their lives.
I absolutely draw the line there. But here's the thing.
But the Democrats don't. So you would want the Republicans to draw a line.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But the entire LGBTQ community is not in favor of pushing being transgender on 8-year-olds. You know, they're just about being accepted. And the folks that are pushing the transgenderism in elementary schools have nothing to do with this local Colorado community. And I mean, Dave didn't need to say that. And then in light of Valdemar Archuleta running for CD1, what the hell does, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Does Dave not want to have any Republicans elected in Colorado? Because that's what he's pushing for. I am really mad.
Now, Karen, the question I've got for you, when Dave Williams came out and through the Colorado State Party, sent out an email saying that God hates pride and suggesting in part that we need to burn pride flags. In Colorado, is this going to gain or lose votes for a Republican candidate? What's your opinion?
It's going to lose votes.
That's my conclusion, too.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I live in Edgewater. We just had the Pride Parade here on Saturday. So now you're going to alienate all of Edgewater and surrounding communities. We had Ramey Johnson here talking to the gay pride community here, and you know, she had some people that were pretty hot over Republicans, and now it's going to make it just way worse.
Yeah, I feel like this is closing the tent.
Do you think that they would vote for Republicans? I mean, it's in our party platform. We believe in traditional marriage. Republicans have always believed in marriage as between one man and one woman.
That's fine, but do we have to impose that on others?
So the other side gets to impose. The other side gets to impose their values. We don't get to impose ours. That's
not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to measure our communications. Could we? I mean, do we really denounce the LGBT community?
Yeah, here, Ken, let me step in here just for a sec, because when Jeff is talking about the marriage, I understand what he's saying about traditional marriage being between a man and a woman, but that also is religious marriage. We have civil marriage, and that is different. There are different standards and different parameters inside of civil marriage. And we, I believe, as a society, should be okay with that civil marriage being between a same-sex couple. I don't know of any person that is an LGBTQ advocate that is saying the churches need to be forced to honor this ceremony. They have to be able to give us a marriage ceremony that is equal to what the heterosexuals have. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I don't know of a single advocate that's asking for that. What they're asking for is the civil marriage. They're asking to the access that everybody else that's heterosexual gets through the state. They're not looking for religion. They're looking for the state to say it's okay, because there's access to a whole bunch of laws and there's a whole bunch of other things that kick in once you're into that committed marriage and that committed relationship. Now, the other part is, I find it strange that conservatives, even though they don't like gay marriage, would still be against a loving, committed relationship. It seems to be more about the morals of going out and being a whore. And if you're in a loving, committed relationship, even if you're in a same-sex relationship, that to me is more of a positive than the heterosexual person going out there and sleeping with everybody they can. What's the relationship that I like? What's the relationship that looks closer to God? What's the relationship that looks closer to love? It's the same-sex couple that has been committed for 30 years, not the guy or the girl that is going out there and sleeping with everybody else and having one-night stands all the time. But we would be okay with that because it's heterosexual. That's kind of the issue that I've got with it.
Well, I totally agree with you today, Bill. Not normally, but
that's
I do
okay.
today.
Every once in a while, you can stomach me. I appreciate that. I appreciate that
you
myself.
got something right today.
Thank you.
So
I will take that in my pocket. I'll say, have a great day, Karen. Thank you. You have made my day.
We're going to definitely be covering this a little bit later in the show, but feel free to give us your call or your calls on this, 303-696-1971. A little bit later in the show, we're going to play for you the video attached to the email that came from the Colorado Republican Party. It comes from a sermon given by Pastor Mark Driscoll about the origins of pride, the spiritual issues around pride and whether or not Christians should be embracing pride. And then we'll give you also Archuleta, Valdemar Archuletta's response. He put out a video and then he was featured on 9 News yesterday about this. Is this good for the Colorado Republican Party? Are they standing for truth in a culture that wants to force LGBTQ in every aspect of the society, force it upon kids, embrace the sterilization and transing of kids that's taking place out there? Is it good for the Republican Party to draw a line in the sand and say, absolutely not, we are going to promote traditional Judeo-Christian worldview when it comes to sexuality? Or are they compromising their ability to win elections? They're so focused in on truth that they're going to lose elections as a result of it because the tone has come across as hateful. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. When we come back, I want to talk about Caitlin Clark. She's the basketball player that is now into the WNBA. She just came from college. She was the all-time leading scorer for both men and women in college, but the WNBA treating her not very well, throwing her down, hip checks, all that stuff. Is this just part of the sport? Or are they beating up on the little white girl? We'll get into this and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We got a lot to cover today, but we're going to jump over to crowd favorite. You choose the news, Billy.
Yes, I was just prepping it and making sure that all of the illegal things have been covered because it is time for us to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories that I hold here in my hand, giving them even more ridiculous headlines. Why? Because it's a lot of fun. It's silly, it's stupid, and the people in charge have no idea we're doing it. So we would appreciate if you share this. Yes, they are asleep. They don't wake up for like another 7 minutes. So we would appreciate if you keep this a secret. And as always, this is proudly not sponsored by Rolling Out Shelves. They are a serious mother-son team that will come for free to your home and give you an estimate. They'll look at ways to fix the clutter in your bathroom, your bedroom, in your closet, in your garage. But whatever you do not mention You Choose the News. They are a fine, upstanding corporation that would never be associated with something as stupid as this. Alrighty, here we go, gentlemen. Your headlines today. Headline number 1, celebrate the traitors. Headline number 2, how hard did Mozart party? Headline number 3, a jungle of influence. And headline number 4, everybody run!
I would like to see how hard Mozart partied.
Yes, how hard did Mozart party? Well, they're trying to find out on a beach town in France. See, the thing is, it's the end of the school semester, and it is a popular party beach. So they're trying to see how hard Mozart can party by playing loud classical music all the time around the beach.
They used to do that in Denver to keep the skaters away.
Exactly, and it's working. Oddly enough, it's working very, very well. So, yeah, again, it's easy. Law enforcement. Just turn up the music. And maybe give some light jazz. That would be another one. Yeah, exactly.
Is that Beethoven?
Yeah, that one is. Yep. Alrighty, now Blake Olson from the news department. You are choosing our second story this morning. Celebrate the traitors. A jungle of influence, or everybody run.
Let's go with celebrate the traitors.
Yes, we were celebrating the traitors earlier, right here in the very good old U.S. of A. Earlier this week, Alabama commemorated the birthday of the Confederate president. Yes, Alabama
Jefferson Davis.
Yes, they have a state day off to celebrate the traitor.
Oh my god!
In general, I guess I'm just.
I would like to point out that Jefferson Davis was never put in jail.
Yeah,
and that guy led our entire country to split in half.
Yeah.
But
I went to college with 3 or 4 black guys who went to Jeff Davis High School, and they played football.
Way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. These guys are awesome.
Oh my God.
But man, I mean, you talk about some great conversations. I was shocked. That was 1985.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been crazy.
Jeff Davis High School.
All this time, they have 3. Alabama has 3 different state holidays celebrating Confederates.
Yeah,
time to move on, guys.
Yes, why the traitors? Oh well. I mean, we don't sit around and celebrate the team that comes in second in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Or like
Good
British
point.
Independence Day or whatever.
We don't do that.
We left you guys.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, Jeff. Final choice this morning: a jungle of influence where everybody run.
Everybody run.
Yes, everybody run. Guess what? There is a town in Italy where 2/3 of the residents are political candidates. Yeah, it's a small, tiny town of only 42 residents, but 30 of them are running for office. I have no idea how big the office or the government is. It must be very, very busy that you've got 30 residents running for individual offices. The only thing that I worry about is how awkward is it when you meet each other at the grocery store, or you bump into each other at the bank, because everybody's a candidate.
Right.
I mean, everyone. You have no constituents.
I love the towns that elect dogs as mayors.
Oh,
those are the best run towns.
Those are the best run towns. I was going to make a joke about someone in the town and mayors and having fleas in Denver from the homeless, but I won't do that. I'm better than that. I'm going to be better than that today. Alrighty, Blake Olson, thanks for joining us. We'll check in with the news in a second. That's the end of You Choose the News. Back to you, sir.
All right, coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to talk Caitlin Clark. How's she doing in the WNBA? Are they treating her right? Are they giving her the hip checks? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's Wednesday, June 5th, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and most of the time, pretty crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up in just a second, how do the ladies of The View feel about Caitlin Clark? Is this all just because of white privilege, pretty privilege? Is that why Caitlin Clark is getting the big sponsorship deals that other ladies in the WNBA aren't getting? And how about that hip check that took place? If you didn't see this, holy cow. Chennedy, is it Chennedy Carter? I think that's maybe how you pronounce her name. Hip checked Caitlin Clark right into the ground is this kind of newbie welcome to the WNBA, or is there something more going on there? We're going to cover this and more with Diane Thompson. She's the CCU women's head basketball coach. She's going to be joining our program in studio here in just a second to talk through all of this. But let's check in on the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. It sounds great. I can't wait to hear that. 61 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, President Biden has signed an executive order to limit the flow of illegal immigrants. They call it limiting the flow at the southern border. Biden labored through a press conference afterward.
Today, I'm announcing actions to bar migrants who cross our southern border unlawfully from receiving asylum. Migrants will be restricted from receiving asylum at our southern border unless they seek it after entering through an established lawful process. Those who seek to come to the United States legally, for example, by making an appointment and coming to a port of entry, asylum will still be available to them, still available.
After the first 2,500 illegals who rushed through the border, the feds can do what they're supposed to do, shut it down. Senator Ted Cruz.
You want to understand the consequences? Take a look at the two police officers in New York who were shot this week by an illegal alien that Joe Biden and the Democrats released. The assailant, Bernardo Raul Castro Mata, is a name really out of Charles Dickens. Mata is Spanish for he kills. His middle name is a communist murdering dictator. And what happened? He came illegally from Venezuela. He came to John and my home state of Texas. He came to Eagle Pass. We had him apprehended. And what did he do? He did what Joe Biden and the Democrats have done for 3.5 years. He let him go. And Mr. Mata went to New York City and shot 2 New York cops this week. That's happening every single week. We have not had a week go by when someone is not shot, someone is not murdered, a child is not raped by an illegal immigrant released by Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Also on Tuesday, Attorney General Merrick Garland was on the hot seat as Republicans pushed him to release audio tapes of President Biden's interview with the DOJ. Garland says he's already given plenty to Congress regarding the president's alleged mishandling of classified material. An $8.5 million settlement has been reached in the case of a woman who was hit by a train after she was left in a police car. It happened near Platteville 2 years ago when officers left a squad car parked on the train tracks with Ureni Rios Gonzalez was stuck inside. Rios Gonzalez suffered a traumatic brain injury and other serious injuries when the train slammed into the vehicle. One person is in custody following a Tuesday stabbing near Union Station in downtown. Police arrested a suspect, and he's been identified as 28-year-old Mark Thomas. There's no word on the victim's current condition. Aurora police searching for a hit-and-run driver who injured a woman last Sunday. It happened along Dayton Street, where Rachel Fisher was hit by a car when she walked to an Uber, and the collision was caught on a surveillance camera. Fisher had to have knee surgery, suffered a concussion, and is still recovering from her injuries. Surveillance images of the car involved have been released to the public, and anyone with information is asked to contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. The Rockies lose to the Reds 4-1. Getaway day today at Coors Field. First pitch, 1:10. 57 in Castle Pines, 59 in Arvada, and 61 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Wednesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 7:10 5-day forecast. Sunny to partly sunny, and it will be warm. Temperatures upper 80s to near 90 today, a little breezy, and it will be dry 50s tonight. Dry, warm, near 90 Thursday. Mid to upper 80s to as warm as the lower 90s on Friday. Today and Thursday dry, but Friday will bring afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms likely for the weekend. 80 Saturday, but cooling to the 70s Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Caitlin Clark, interesting player. She plays now for the Indiana Fever. And I, to be honest, didn't watch a ton of women's basketball until Caitlin Clark came on the scene. Is that because I only like her because she's white and pretty? Well, The View was discussing this the other day, and this was kind of their take.
I do think that there is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. And so the part of it is about race, because if you think about the Brittany Griners of the world, you know, why did she have to go to play in Russia?
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay, not because she was black, but because they didn't believe in the WNBA.
This is part of my point. So now, you know, Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma of against the LGBTQ plus community. 70% of the WNBA is black. A third of the players are in the LGBTQ plus community. And we have to do something about that stigma in this country. I think that people have a problem with basketball playing women that are lesbians. Who cares? They are great athletes.
That was the ladies of The View talking about Caitlin Clark. Joining us in studio is Diane Thompson. She's the CCU women's basketball coach. She's become a good friend of mine over the years when I worked over there at CCU. And I wanted to just pick her brain a little bit on the development of the WNBA, as that sport seems to be changing, as women's college basketball. I'll be honest, Diane, I had never watched any of the women's basketball games, really, in the March Madness until this year. And Blake and I would talk about it. It seemed interesting, fun. Maybe it was stuff I was missing all along, and it was Caitlin Clark that kind of brought me in on it. But I wanted to pick your brain on this. Is the nature of women's basketball changing?
I think it is. I think Caitlin Clark has a huge amount of pressure on her. And I think the WNBA needs to protect her a little bit more. When Kennedy Carter did hip check her, it was dirty. It was malicious. And it took away from the game. And WNBA players, I think there is a little stigma about being a little jealous because there are really good players in the WNBA that's worked their tail off and they didn't get noticed. But they need to take care of Caitlin Clark because now they're able to be noticed. But the play that Kennedy Carter did was very dirty, and I think she should have been ejected for it.
Yeah, ejected. And so if you're not sure what it was a hip check. So Caitlin Clark's just kind of standing there. The ball's not even around them. And Kennedy Carter comes up and just basically lays her out.
Let me give a little bit more of a description of this, because the context is a bit important. It is following a shot that's been made. Ball is going out of bounds underneath the basket. Caitlin Clark moves over to the right side of the court in order to possibly receive the ball, but she's not really paying attention. So it's obviously not immediately going to go there. The player from the other team makes a beeline over to her, and without Caitlin Clark being aware of it, seeing, or even turning towards the ball, she gets a hip check and gets knocked out. For me, that's an important piece of the context because it wasn't involved in the regular flow of the game. That's important, and I agree with our coach there that absolutely she should have been tossed for that, because you don't outside of the flow of the game. You can play hard, but when it's outside of the flow of the game, that's intentional and malicious, and that needs to be addressed immediately. Yeah, she should be suspended. Honestly, I'd suspend her for 2 games. I'd thrown out of that game.
Really? See, yeah. I'm kind of. I watch men's basketball. Jokic, he just outright shoves people sometimes, right? Those boys just get into a street fight, and I'm kind of like, and Whoopi was there with us. Here's Whoopi's position that this is just kind of basketball.
Let's be realistic, okay? This is basketball, okay? This happens in basketball all the time. Angel Reese got a clothesline the other day. That's what the game is. So a lot of people, however, are reading this as confrontation. But this is not. They're not playing on the court. They're there to win. Oh. You know, and just because they're women, get over yourselves. Yeah. They're athletes.
It is a contact sport.
Yeah.
And it's not dainty play. Okay. When you're sitting there and when you're watching, sometimes when that happens, you think, oh, wow, I couldn't take it. You've got, a guard that's 6 foot. You've got a big that's 6'7". You've got Brittany Griner, 7 feet. These are the women that are playing. They're exceptional athletes, and it's going to make them better. It's going to make Caitlin better. It's going to make Angel better. It's going to make the league better.
All right, Diane Thompson, head women's basketball coach at Colorado Christian University. Is this just part of the game, or was that pretty flagrant?
That was pretty flagrant. I don't think people are all day long hip checking Caitlin Clark. During the game, it's a lot different than when nothing is going on. There was no play on the ball, absolutely none. Is what was even more bothersome to me is where were her teammates? Where was Caitlin's teammates on this? So are her teammates jealous of Caitlin? Because if I was Aaliyah Boston, who's a great player, seems to be a good friend, I would have jumped up, lift up Caitlin Clark, and shoved Kennedy away. So to me, it's not about black or white or about being pretty or not pretty. If it was about being pretty or not pretty, Cameron Brink, who's at the Sparks, who's a model, would have a lot more about being white, privileged, and pretty, who's best friends with Steph Curry's family, would have more tout than Caitlin Clark. It's about the game of basketball, and she's a product.
I like what you were saying about the flagrant foul and how her teammates didn't respond. I appreciate that because that shocked me when none of her teammates came around. And I appreciate how you said you first would help Caitlin Clark up. No, I'm shoving the other player immediately. And I played throughout high school and then a little bit in college with a club team that was very, very rough. We had a reputation. We had meetings. There were issues about us. And
I can absolutely see this. And Billy was a street fighter out there.
It was if that would have happened to one of the players on our team, that's a bench clearing brawl, and people are losing teeth. Not a question at all. And the issue that I've got with how the play went down is I understand hitting the star. I did that. I was not the star. But if you were the pretty boy, if you were the star on the team, the first time that we had a tangle, I'm hitting you hard. I'm sending a message. I'm letting you know that just because of your reputation, you've got to earn it today. I'm not going to give you an inch because of who you are when you stepped on that field. We went inside the lines, inside the court, inside the field.
So you now targeted.
I absolutely coming down. The first thing I did is I would hammer them. Again, not mean. I wouldn't be dirty about it, but it would be a hard foul. What I wouldn't do, though, is let's say it's a goal kick and the ball goes way up the field. I wouldn't run over behind the player and then slide tackle him and hurt him.
Right.
And that's what the player did in the WNBA. She came outside of the play and attacked Caitlin. For me, that's a punching. We are going, I don't care. That's absolutely. And my team, okay, this is how bad it was. We had to have a meeting with the Colorado Youth Soccer Association as to whether or not they were going to disband the team. Because at the time, our team had more red cards than the team number 2 had yellow cards. We didn't F around. You pushed like that. It was that was a bench clearing brawl. We were going to have lots of people. We were going to finish the game with 5 aside because everybody else is getting kicked out.
So Diane Thompson, you're the head women's basketball coach for Colorado Christian University. I mean, during games, they mix them up a little bit, don't they? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. And being a Christian university, we upheld as being good sport, faith, family, basketball. I always preach, but at the end of the day, we're not wimpy, and we're going to compete. And so, but off the court, we lift them up. We respect their play, good, bad, or indifferent. Everybody's competing. And the Kennedy Carter, when she hip checked, it took away from the game. And so, and I feel like with her teammates and stuff, it took away from the game because you need that camaraderie. And Caitlin has brought so much attention with the little girls and with families. I mean, even my mom's like, I got WNBA pass so I can watch. And I'm like, you barely watch my games. And I'm a head coach. So she's brought in so much to the game and she works hard. Don't get me wrong. Caitlin Clark talks trash. I mean, I would, if she was my teammate, I'd be, oh man, you're a ball hog. But she is so good and so fun. And she has elevated the game. And, you know, you look at like Becky Hammond, who is the Las Vegas coach, and she was like, oh, it's just a part of being a rookie. And we love Caitlin Clark, and everybody touts how much they love her, but they don't protect her. And you have to protect that amazing of a product. I don't care if she is doing horrible. I mean, the media was like 10 turnovers in her first game, and it was like, see, she's not that good. And that's what the WNBA was more excited about, that instead of welcoming her. Like, I don't think they should be thanking her for everything, because she is just a normal person, but that girl has pressure, and she's still 23 years old. She's so young and growing to be, you know, this phenomenon that she was just brought into because of the NCAA.
It seems to me that at the end of it's not about race. It's not about it's about marketability, right? So if it's Tiger Woods, if it's Michael Jordan, if it's Steph Curry, if it's Kobe Bryant, any of those players, Peyton Manning, for instance, it's not about race. It's not about looks. It's probably about looks. Why I'm not a major marketable asset. But if it's about marketability and the ability to connect with audiences and sell merchandise, we're a capitalistic society. That's what it seems to come down to me.
Well, and you know, I look at Angel Reese, for example, and Kim Mulkey. And my daughter's 13. Well, she just turned 14, and she's like, Mom, you should buy a coat like Kim Mulkey. And I'm looking at her like, no. And she was like, but she is attracted to that. Like, for whatever reason, Kim Mulkey, who's the coach at LSU and who coached Angel Reese.
Oh, yeah, that girl. Oh, yeah,
Yes,
of course.
so-
The one that gets like super, I only see the
Yes.
memes. She gets like crazy into the game.
Right. And it's a marketability. She's
Yeah.
a crazy woman yelling at the refs. And I'm thinking, my daughter wants me to be like her. And I'm like, what does Kim Mulkey have? I mean, she's a phenomenal recruiter, good coach. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be like Kim Mulkey. And she's like, but I get you a coat like Kim Mulkey. And I'm like, oh, daughter. But there's something about Angel Reese. I think Angel Reese has kind of that mean toughness mentality, and that's her personality, and it's somewhat marketable. It's not as marketable as Caitlin Clark, but for whatever reason, my daughter follows her on Instagram. And I'm like, why does she follow? I don't think she's as good as a player, but I'll tell you what Angel Reese did. She stuck up for her teammate. And that in itself, she started saying, well, Caitlin Clark's not the only player that has brought the WNBA. Whatever factor Angel Reese or product that Angel Reese has brought is still up the WNBA a little bit. And so it isn't about black or white. Asia Wilson is a phenomenal player, came from South Carolina and plays for the Aces. And all of a sudden, Kate Martin is just like this goody little two-shoe Iowa girl. But that was under the radar because she played with Caitlin Clark. Kate Martin's not jealous, but so other people are for whatever reason. And I don't know why, but Caitlin Clark's phenomenal. And she's a product that the WNBA is thriving on.
And is needed for a long time. And WNBA has been around since 96, played their first games in 97. I don't think many people paid much attention to it. Why?
Caitlin Clark could have stayed in college one more year. She had a COVID year. She could have shattered the records to make sure they're unbreakable. And she made plenty of money. She probably made more money in college than she did in the WNBA. Those contracts followed her she what I like about Caitlin Clark, she could have made $5 million playing for Ice Cube in that 3-on-3, but she is bigger than the game, and she knows that she has lots of little girls. She knows her impact is going to be bigger than what she is going through, unfortunately. And it's a lonely world being that.
And not just little girls, my boys too. We watch, I'll be honest, we probably watch more of Caitlin Clark's games than we did the men's basketball this tournament, because it was fun and exciting. You get that like this historic, right? She's going to break Pete Maravich's record. Pistol Pete. I grew up watching those movies about Pistol Pete. Yeah. So there was like a history to it, which was kind of cool. But the question is to why people didn't watch the WNBA. It's been around for 20 plus years.
Maybe it just
why
wasn't
is it changing?
marketable.
Yeah.
Well, Caitlin Clark is a product. It's a show. I mean, like LeBron James, they call him the cry of the world, but he's a great player. I mean, Michael Jordan. I think when people stay with a team, and I think Caitlin Clark with the transfer portal and everything was with Iowa 4 years. And that's why she was loved. She was homegrown and everything like that. Michael Jordan stayed with the Chicago Bulls the whole time. That's why he was loved. He won all those titles. LeBron's been different places. Shaquille O'Neal's been different places. The next best player I think that was loved was Kobe Bryant. He was with the Lakers the whole time. And I think when somebody sticks with a team, sticks with that whole thing, they're loved because that team is loved. And then hopefully she never gets traded out of Indiana because it's just a familiarity type of thing.
Now, that's interesting. Coach Diane Thompson, CCU, women's head basketball coach. It's interesting to talk about the love, because I see that in Denver's relationship with Carmelo Anthony, that he is beloved for his time here, but because he left and didn't think that we could achieve and chase it elsewhere, he's now a secondary citizen. When he came back and complained, hey, Jokic is wearing my number, he shouldn't have been wearing my number, Nuggets fans went, shut up, you left. He's here. You left. And I think you're right about that long term where they fall in love with it. And another thing I wanted to discuss was the attention. And I think that you're absolutely right, that it is the marketability of Caitlin Clark and the marketability of Angel and the up-and-comers and Cameron, the up-and-comers and the players. And that's what in some ways the WNBA was missing and are able to capture. And you never know exactly which one of those individuals is really going to transcend and become a star on the next level. And I see this all the time in soccer, and you see it as far as changing teams and how they grow. And many times it is all down to that individual marketing. The NBA saw a huge boom in the 1980s when they changed from marketing teams to marketing individuals. That's when they saw their growth, when it became Magic and Larry and Kareem and Patrick Ewing and John Starks. That's when it changed. That's when they saw things go into the stratosphere. And I hope that the WNBA is able to do the same thing with Angel and Caitlin and Cameron and all the rest of the players.
Exactly. I mean, when I think of the Colorado Rockies, for example, I think of Todd Helton. He was here.
Yep.
He finished his
Chuck
career
Nasty.
Here. Chuck Nasty. He is here. And that's why these guys and every professional team, when they get a person, key player, they want to keep them. Same with college. And it's just like grooming them. When people are bouncing around, you kind of lose that love for that specific player and that marketability. So,
but is football the same way? Peyton Manning played in a bunch of different places, but I guess Elway didn't. Yeah, Elway didn't.
Yeah, in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't, because the lifespan inside the NFL is so short. But it changes that way. You don't necessarily have those long-term players because of how it works. So it's a little bit different. But I really think the marketing is we can lean into what these players can mean, and the identity, the thing that Caitlin Clark has been able to tap into that I think is unique, that coaches pointed out very accurately, is that little girls are able to see themselves in her. They're now going out on the basketball court, and they're not pretending to be the NBA stars. They're out on the court and they're pretending to be the WNBA stars. You've got little girls in driveways right now saying, it's the final 3 seconds. Caitlin Clark has the ball, 3, 2, and then they're pretending. And that's what starts that spark of desire to make sure you get to the professional level. It's going to be great.
Got a question, text message question here. Do you think Denver's going to get a WNBA team?
We were on the list, and I think they went with Canada. Dang it.
I love how we competed with an entire country.
Yes, I think they were looking back when I was a player, they had the Portland Fire. And I was actually potential WNBA player and tried out for the Sparks, did really well. And they picked up this player, Jackie Stiles. You might not know who she is, but she was one of the all-time leading scorers in the NCAA for the women's side. And so I didn't make it, but it's just a little different with all these avenues. I thought Denver had a really strong shot, when we were looking at female athletes and players, but like the Sabrina basketball shoes. Where is she? She was really good at Oregon. And then we had COVID and they didn't have the NILs back then. And she kind of missed out on the era. So what happened to Sabrina? She got hurt her first year. And so people kind of forgot about her. Paige Bruckers was better than Caitlin Clark going into their freshman year. They're both freshman of the year. Paige Bruckers got hurt. She's at UConn and it's going to take her 5th year at UConn. So I'm saying names that you guys probably don't know. That's okay.
But the point being, you got to protect Caitlin Clark, right?
Right.
If she gets injured.
Right. Where does the WNBA? And it will hurt because of the ticket sales.
Wow. To Whoopi's credit, she appreciated a little meritocracy here.
We have been trying to bring attention to the WNBA for years, begging people to pay attention. These women are oftentimes equal, if not better sometimes, than the folks you're watching.
Sometimes better than the guys.
And so to have her reduced that way bothered me a lot because this is her record.
Yeah.
And unless you can show me who's got a better record than this is why she's getting the attention she's getting, because she's a damn good player. And it doesn't matter whether she's straight or gay. Ain't nobody crying when she's making those balls.
I was like, Whoopi finally embracing a little meritocracy, which I appreciate. You got to celebrate that. Well, Diane Thompson, head coach for the women's basketball CCU. Tell us about the program at CCU.
Well, before I took over, we had 5 wins and they recruited really good kids. But I was coming into a program that I'm like with little money. And I knew there is Christian athletes that can play basketball. And so, and I always say just because you're Christian doesn't mean you have to be wimpy. I don't want to win Sportsman of the Year because we're wimpy or we're not very good. And so after my 3rd season, we won 17 wins, made the conference tournament, which is really good. I got 11 returners. I do have 3 kids from Iowa, 2 that actually played with Caitlin Clark. And so that was really exciting and really, really good players out of there. And I just think the program's on the up and up. And we are trying to capitalize on what women's basketball is doing. We are fun. We are a fun team to watch and just excited to be a part of something bigger than myself and just really be a role model for the girls to help them grow on and off the basketball court.
To your credit, CCU regularly gets recognized as top teams for sportsmanship in the RMAC conference. So you guys blend that well together. No hip checks. No unfair hip checks.
Yeah,
taking place.
I did play a couple of seasons at CCU. Just saying, when I was there, we didn't get that award. No.
All right, so I'm going to propose this: a one-on-one game between Billy Thorpe and Diane Thompson, basketball.
I'm going to.
Then we'll go
badly.
Soccer, but I bet she beats you in both.
Oh, absolutely. She's in shape, and I got fat knees. I always tell people I got 5 minutes in me. I got a good 5 minutes on the field. After that, I'm blown up. I got nothing left in the tank. I can go hard for 5 after that. Done. I am done. She is going to spank me hard, and I will deserve it. It's going to be awful.
We'll come to a game, and you can come support and see what women's basketball really is at the Division II level, because it's a high talent. It really is. I think the difference between Division I and Division II is usually the players are a little smaller and we have less money. And really that's it. Because we can compete with some of those Division I schools.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Based on skill level, 110%. And many times these are players that were going to be secondary choices at those larger schools, regardless of the fact that they could still start. They still have that skill set. And so, yeah, there are some gems inside of D2. So, yeah, I'll check out a game. I'll be really excited to.
Text message, Tony from Denver. I think Angel Reese is right when she said fans watch her too. If the WNBA is smart, they'd make it like a Bird versus Magic rivalry.
Yep.
Clark is just getting the welcome to the league rookie treatment. What do you think?
I agree with that in an aspect, but Bird and Magic respected each other off the court. So I think that's where I struggle with Angel Reese a little bit. She doesn't give Caitlin credit either. Caitlin's kind of humble, kind of stays quiet about it. But if Angel Reese would be all, yeah, Caitlin's a good player, but we're going to come after her. And I'm just as feisty or whatever she's trying to market, whatever she does. She blows a ton of layups. We all do. But yeah, I did when I played too. But there is something special about Caitlin Clark and her scoring. She is face guarded every single game. Angel Reese is not. Yes, Angel Reese gets thrown to the ground. All post players get thrown to the ground, even at the Division II level. That's how, but you do not hip check somebody after a play. You don't. That is dirty as it comes. She really could have got hurt. And that's just not good basketball. And the WNBA is like, oh, we have a good product. Well, then show that product. Caitlin's bringing you guys fans. Show the product. Don't hip check and trying to ruin what Caitlin Clark is bringing you.
Oh, Caitlin Clark's range is amazing. I mean, she can shoot from the stands. I mean, that's one of the things she brings in. And you highlighted earlier her 10 turnovers early in the game, but that's an aspect that I don't think people are highlighting enough. She's an amazing passer. Her vision is really good based on her age. I really appreciate the openings that she sees, and they really should lean into that. And I like what you say about Caitlin and Angel not respecting each other off the court. And you're absolutely right, because the rule should be when you cross those lines and we're now competing on the court, that's business. But after that, it can be personal. We can be friends. We can go hard as we can inside of those lines. But when the whistle blows at the end, it's over. And we turn around, we shake hands, and we can go out and have a beer, hang out with each other afterwards, even if you're wearing the other jersey. It has to be that way. You can't make it that personal. I have a feeling that because Angel gets that personal, if I knew that she was, if I was Caitlin, I would be using it. I would be using that to get her out of her game, because I know that she's personally involved in this rather than being more involved in the game and the sport. I would be playing with that inside of her mind. I'd be mentioning things to her. I would be talking to her about, oh, I see that I've got more Instagram followers. I see this. Oh, did you see this? I had more highlights on ESPN. I would try to do that so she's mad, to get her out of what her game is. I would use it against her.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think relationships, like even as a coach, I tell my girls, we have a basketball relationship and we have off the court relationship.
Yep.
I love my kids off the court. I'll do anything for them. I tell them I'm going to go to their weddings. I'm going to go to their baby showers. But on the court, it's our livelihood. And it's these women's livelihood. And that's why they're so protective of how good their game is, how hard they work. But, and they all bring different skill sets. And so I get it, how it's competitive on the court. But off the court, we are people. We're bigger than basketball. Basketball doesn't define who they are. And if you start letting basketball define who they are, then they have nothing to look forward to.
And some of the best conversations I've ever had are hanging out after games with opponents, or months later, running into them at certain places and sitting down and talking about those games. They are phenomenal conversations, and they build really, really strong friendships. I still remember a time in which a real good friend of mine, he's on the other team, and I'm chasing him down and coming after him with the ball, and I'm talking to him behind him, right behind you, Jim. What are we going to do here? Oh, you got the ball, Jim. Nice. Now we're going to go. We're going to go left, you're going to go right. And so I'm just talking to him the entire time. He turns around afterwards like, God, that messed me up. But I'm just goofing with him. I'm not being mean about it, but there has to be that friendly relationship. And you're right. There's a difference between the off the court relationship and the on the court relationship. On the court, you don't take it personal. This is about making everybody better. And you have to point out the weaknesses and the mistakes of the individuals. Otherwise, you can't get better and you can't take it personally.
Diane Thompson, head women's basketball coach at Colorado Christian University. When does the season start?
So we have a golf tournament, big fundraiser, August the 8th. So if you want to play in that, that's a big, big donation for women's basketball. So don't forget to look that one up. But that's when our girls start coming in. August 16th is when school starts, and we start 4 days later. And so once preseason rolls around, we got October 4th. First game is November, first month in November, the first week of November. So
first week of November, you can buy tickets and have a really fun time and be around great women that are committed to Christ and demonstrate those ethics.
It's super affordable, and the crowd is fantastic there. They got
a
really great crowd.
Diane Thompson, head women's basketball coach for Colorado Christian University. Breaking down Caitlin Clark. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill program.
Thanks for having me.
That was a lot of fun. Folks, want to talk to you about QC Kinetics. Are you living with knee pain, joint pain, back pain? Is it robbing you of the joy in your life? You're not alone. That type of pain, back pain, joint pain, knee pain, affects millions, impacting the quality of life. There's hope, and it doesn't require surgery. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, the type of joint pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement. But why risk surgery when there's a safer option? With no downtime and a free consultation, QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Call 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. That's painfreecolorado.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. When we come back, we're going to break down this Colorado GOP email. You're not going to believe what they sent. Is this going to help or hurt the Republican Party? God hates pride. I want to take your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNU.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. In 2023, more women climbed the corporate ladder to become CEOs. In New York, Haley Bianco has the story.
More women are reaching the top ranks of the corporate suite of S&P 500 companies, but their numbers are still much lower compared to their male counterparts. The findings come from AP's and Equilar's compensation study. Of the 341 CEOs at S&P 500 companies who have served at least 2 fiscal years at their companies, 25 were women. That's the most women making the list since Equilar and AP started doing the study in 2011. But the numbers haven't budged that much. The second highest tally was 21 in 2017. The study included pay data for filed proxy statements between January 1st and April 30th.
Opening statements were delivered to the jury on Tuesday in Hunter Biden's federal gun charges trial. In a court in Wilmington, Delaware, prosecutors said that President Joe Biden's son lied about his illegal drug use when he bought a gun back in 2018. The defense said that the 54-year-old had, quote, no intent to deceive. Mr. Biden has pled not guilty to the 3 charges against him. He's also facing federal tax charges in the state of California. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Great conversation with Diane Thompson, head basketball coach for Colorado Christian University, talking Caitlin Clark and whether or not she's getting the attention she deserves because she's a great basketball player, or is it just white privilege, pretty privilege, as the View said? And was that hip check that she got from Kennedy Carter fair or not?
I love the fact with Coach Thompson that the idea that she was reacting to the teammates not coming and helping Caitlin, because that was something that got me too. I'm like, where are the teammates there?
Come on,
and
guys.
That would actually, if I was Caitlin, I would have some individual questions about the support of my teammates because you didn't have my back. That would have been a real issue for me. Like, how badly do these ladies really want me here? Yeah, are they actually not on board with me? Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Give us a call. What do you think? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Are you watching the WNBA now? I am. I didn't watch it before. But I think Caitlin Clark's marketability is more like Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan. You just have a person that comes along that, just kind of appeals to a lot of people. They're fun to watch. They're brilliant. They're talented. And I think she falls in that category. I don't think it's racism or pretty privilege at all. I think she's just what the WNBA has been waiting for a long time. So
think about when the women's national soccer team started getting big. It was, again, attractive people, but big personalities and fantastic players that were at the upper echelon inside the sport and a team mentality. But again, they highlighted certain players based on personality. Some have turned out to be great that they highlighted them, some not so much. But again, it was about those individuals highlighting them and putting them at the forefront, because that's how you sell the jerseys. That's how you get the little kids imagining that they're on the field with their stars. You have to give them stars to look up at first before they will start watching your games and buying the jerseys.
Email from the Colorado Republican Party to the entire list just a few days ago. God hates pride. In it, there was a video linked that says God hates flags. This from the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party. The month of June has arrived, and once again, the godless groomers in our society want to attack what is decent, holy, and righteous so that they can ultimately harm our children. Above is a great sermon from Pastor Mark Driscoll titled Black and White in a Rainbow World. Warning, do not watch if you're easily triggered or intolerant of the gospel of Jesus Christ like Kyle Clark from 9 News, which Kyle had some words to say about this.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Here's a short excerpt from the sermon to consider. Progressivism is a demonic lie. God doesn't need to improve his message because he got it right the first time. Unlike those of us who think there needs to be progress, there doesn't need to be progress. There needs to be obedience to perfection, and that is the word of God. Throughout June, we will share more sermons from Pastor Driscoll and encourage all to listen to his message and resist the evil that is trying to indoctrinate children, undermine parents, and harm families. Thank you. And as we said last year, together we can protect our children and future, but only if you get involved and defend the most vulnerable in our society from these woke creeps. For our children, Dave Williams, Chairman, Colorado Republicans. Feel free to read our email from last year below, and remember, God hates pride.
Now, do we think again, I'm just asking this as an open question based on a statement that Dave had in there. I thought Dave was a Christian. Is he?
So is your question around the grace side or the truth side?
No, my question is about is he a Christian based on a follower? Because he
would say yes. Okay, he would say yes.
Because in the statement there, he said that God got it right the first time. Mm-hmm. That means no New Testament. That's the second book. It's the second shot at it. No.
It's not the second shot.
Yes,
that's
it is.
not right theology.
No. Yes,
that's not right theology. It's the fulfillment.
I know, but that's not the first time. The first
what
step
Adam
is all
and
other
Eve would
stuff.
be the first shot.
No. I know that. I know.
Jews.
But the Old Testament is the first book that was written. The second book that is written is the New Testament. It is not, hey, stay tuned for part 2. There's no continuation like Hunger Games. No continuation like Lord of the Rings. It is not, there was not supposed to be a sequel. It's not as if the Old Testament's the prequel. No, I'm just pointing out Dave's language, because Dave uses language but he's saying the first shot. The first time was Old Testament. That was the book that existed first. You know that. And then the Old Testament was afterwards.
You can't separate those out. They're the fulfillment. No, they're the fulfillment of each other. So it's the continuation of the word.
We don't separate them out as Christians. But fundamentally, the one that came first and was written first is the Old Testament.
If you wanted to critique God didn't get it right the first time, it would just be Adam and Eve.
Well, I know, but the issue that I've got with Dave is that he rejects the New Testament technically based on that statement. The language that he uses is problematic. He makes a lot of statements and a lot of justifications and a lot of assumptions that I feel are incorrect, and that's a base one. He said he got it right the first time. Again,
here's the actual sermon from the Colorado GOP email that he references. This is Pastor Mark Driscoll.
Time to help people customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
Oh, sorry. Did I get that in there? Sorry. I thought I cut that out. Crap. I'm sorry. I thought I cut that out. Hang on. I don't know why. I'll bring up the audio in a second. I thought I cut it. I was busy this morning. I'm
Mark
sorry.
Driscoll, brought to you by Geico. Are you going to bring up the audio when it's...
Let me do this. Let me go and re-edit it real quick. Give me a second here.
We'll get to it in a second.
That front end.
And then we'll get to Archuleta's response. So Dave Williams sends out the email, includes a sermon, which we'll play here in a second. But here's what I want to know from our listeners. This is really important because, we're a conservative Christian talk radio station. The Colorado Republican Party is a member of the National Republican Party. The National Republican Party stands with, rightfully so, from my perspective, the biblical definition of marriage, which is between one man and one woman, because it is the best system set up by which families are created.
Okay,
that's why Republicans. Can we play it on your end?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll do it that way. It's easier than
so here's the state party's email link to a sermon by Pastor Mark Driscoll. That's Pastor Mark Driscoll in a sermon shared by the Colorado Republican Party to its entire list, broadcast across the city and the state, titled God Hates Pride. Here's the question I have for 710 KNUS listeners. Give us a call on this. 303-696-1971. Is Dave Williams speaking prophetic truth And when I say that, I say prophetic truth because prophets aren't treated very well by the culture, oftentimes killed and run out. But is Dave Williams speaking prophetic truth to the culture, and it's a good thing, or is the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party sacrificing electoral wins for his own personal religious beliefs and essentially sending out sermons that he agrees with to the entire list, but he's sacrificing electoral success and ability for his own personal religious values? Give me a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get to your calls and text. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Colorado Republican Party sending out an email. God hates pride. He also includes in there God hates flags, and then on the Colorado GOP Twitter account that we should be burning pride flags. It's important for the Colorado Republican Party to push back against the radical LGBTQ agenda. What do you think? Do you support Dave Williams, chairman of the GOP, sending out this message, or is it going to alienate people from the Republicans? We're going to get to your calls and texts in the next hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. They hate pride. What about slutton? No. Sloth, gluttony? What about that? Am I doing that? I don't know.
Hey, AM in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's Wednesday, June 5th, and you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. Crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of very engaging discussions, especially this hour, as to whether or not the Colorado GOP is helping or hurting itself by proclaiming that God hates pride. We'll provide critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. As I mentioned, right after the news, we'll get into this email sent out by the Colorado Republican Party. Really want to hear from you on this. But before that, let's check in on the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 66 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. It's going to be a hot one, and the 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: a Southwest flight headed to Phoenix had to make an emergency landing at DIA after one of the tires failed during takeoff on Monday, and Southwest told KDVR that the flight landed without incident and taxied off the runway.
And if you want to shut down illegal immigration, those coming need to see an outflow by the tens and hundreds of thousands. That will deter. The only policy change that will work is to have mass deportations, because people will stop coming when they see people leaving.
That's Lindsey Graham. President Biden has signed an executive order to limit the flow of illegal immigrants at the southern border.
We came to a clear bipartisan deal. It was the strongest border security agreement in decades. But then Republicans in Congress, not all, but walked away from it. Why? Because Donald Trump told them to.
Hey, it's just like a new game show after the first 2,500 illegals rush the border and get in. Now, that's between the official ports of entry. Then the feds do what they're hired to do, shut it down.
Because it will extend once again the welcome mat. Incentivize people to come and be among the first 2,500 is what we're hearing. The first 2,500 per day to come in. To be ensured that you get your welcome package when you come into the country illegally. It's absolute madness.
Speaker Mike Johnson called on the president to take action to address the parole process, reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, and end catch and release. Attorney General Merrick Garland was on the hot seat as Republicans pushed him to release audio tapes of President Biden's interview with the DOJ. Garland says he's already given plenty to Congress regarding the president's alleged mishandling of classified material. Aurora police searching for 2 armed and dangerous suspects in connection with a gas station shooting in Aurora that happened last Friday morning at a 7-Eleven along East Hampton. A mother and son were hit by stray bullets during the shootout, and the son is still recovering in the hospital. Surveillance camera images of the suspects have been released, and anyone who sees them should call 911. A child has been attacked by an elk in Estes Park for the second time in just a few days. Colorado Parks and Wildlife says that the most recent attack happened Monday when an elk charged and stomped on a 4-year-old boy at a playground. The boy was treated for his injuries at a hospital, and wildlife officers relocated the elk. The first attack happened last Thursday when another elk attacked an 8-year-old girl while she was riding her bike. Diane Thompson, head women's basketball coach at CCU, Colorado Christian University, talking Caitlin Clark with the fellas this morning. Coach Thompson says the WNBA needs to protect their most valuable asset from cheap shots.
I think the WNBA needs to protect her a little bit more. When Kennedy Carter did hip check her, it was dirty. It was malicious. And it took away from the game. And WNBA players, I think there is a little stigma about being a little jealous because there are really good players in the WNBA that's worked their tail off and they didn't get noticed.
I agree. She hit it on the money right there. Rocks lose to the Reds 4-1. Getaway day today at Coors Field. First pitch, 110. 63 in North Glen, 62 in Lone Tree, and 66 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 7:10 5-day forecast. Sunny to partly sunny, and it will be warm. Temperatures upper 80s to near 90 today, a little breezy, and it will be dry 50s tonight. Dry, warm, near 90 Thursday. Mid to upper 80s to as warm as the lower 90s on Friday. Today and Thursday dry, but Friday will bring afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms likely for the weekend. 80 Saturday, but cooling to the 70s Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Here's your 7-10 5-day forecast. Sunny to partly sunny, and it will be warm. Temperatures upper 80s to near 90 today. A little breezy, and it will be dry 50s tonight. Dry, warm, near 90 Thursday. Mid to upper 80s.
Chairman of the Colorado Republican Party definitely knows how to make news. Colorado GOP sending out an email the other day. God hates pride. As we go into Pride Month, they write, the month of June has arrived, and once again, the godless groomers in our society want to attack what is decent, holy, and righteous so that they can ultimately harm our children. He links to a sermon by Pastor Mark Driscoll. We played that in the previous hour. Here's a short excerpt from the sermon to consider. Progressivism is a demonic lie. Colorado doesn't need to improve his message because he got it right the first time. Unlike those of us who think that there needs to be progress, there doesn't need to be progress. There needs to be obedience to perfection, and that is the word of God. Is the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party abiding by the policies of the National Republican Party, which believes that marriage is between one man and one woman? He's standing strong. He's being bold. He's pushing back against a radical progressive agenda that's harming our society and our children. Or is he using his platform to promote his own personal religious values and as a result, creating division and driving away people that should be part of Republicans and necessary for Republicans to win this upcoming election? Well, one of those people responding was Valdemar Archuleta. He put together a video. He's an openly gay man running for Congressional District 1. He's the Republican nominee against Diane Thompson. He had a statement in response. Here's Valdemar Archuleta.
Yesterday, the Colorado State GOP sent out an email with the subject line, God hates pride. I have been an avid critic of where the celebration of pride has gone in recent years, and firm supporter of protecting children from environments and entertainments that are of an adult nature. However, this email went too far and was just hateful. I personally found it very troubling. I spoke with many LGBT and non-LGBT Republicans yesterday who also found the message in the email disgusting and offensive. This email does not represent Republican voters of Colorado. I know the Republicans in our state and in our city. They're kind, accepting, loving, and welcoming people. They've become some of my best friends. They love this country, they love this state, they love our city, and they love their neighbors. They want solutions to the problems facing our communities that the people are most concerned with. I believe working with the Republican Party affords me the greatest chance of getting results for these issues. Primarily, the high cost of living and the economy. Many young people in Denver feel they will never be able to afford the American dream. However, the Republican Party, like all political parties, is not perfect. And I believe it's important to have the integrity to call out your party when you see them make a mistake. On Sunday, June 2nd, the state GOP released its full list of endorsements for this month's state primary. After giving it a lot of thought, reflecting on the email released yesterday, I cannot accept the endorsement of the Colorado State GOP. I sent them an email asking to be removed from their list of endorsees. This does not mean I won't work with the state party. I want them to succeed and I want them to do better. I'm not one to abandon ship when times get hard. I will also support our great GOP candidates from the top of the ticket down. Moving forward, unity is important. We need to work for the betterment of our country. As Peter Thiel said to a standing ovation in his address to the 2016 Republican National Convention, I am proud to be gay. I am proud to be a Republican. But most of all, I am proud to be an American. Thank you.
That's Valdemar Archuleta. He's the Republican candidate for Congressional District 1, challenging Diane Thompson, responding to Dave Williams' email. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Lots of text messages coming in. Artist Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't think God changes his mind, 5634. 8505. I'm not religious. I'm not gay. I lean right, but I'm not Republican because of the lack of morals Trump displayed. People like Dave Williams reaffirm my decision to go on unaffiliated every day. I could care less what faith somebody follows, nor whom they sleep with. Not sure why anybody else does. Text message from 4719. This will alienate independents who hear about this letter. I for one am tired of Pride Month already. That's from Lisa in Castle Rock. All right, let's go to the phone lines. John in Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, John.
Miles of smiles on your radio dial. Thank you so much for having me on. I'll tell you, when I heard what was this post, I was quite angry. But I'm proud that I have the intellect to know when you get angry, you get your butt to the library. And I lost myself in the Spells of the Yukon and other verses by Robert Service, and I read, I have no doubt, said all the devil grins, at seas of ink I spatter. Ye gods forgive my literary sins. The other kind doesn't matter. And that's what inspired me to action.
And what's that action?
Well, I could give $3,300 as the maximum individual contribution to Dave Williams' Democratic opponent. However, in that district, probably wouldn't go far. But $3,300 does buy me 168 copies of Gender Queer, and it's going to be going in every little free library that I can find in his district. And thanks to my EV, it's going to be pretty cheap for me to do it.
Oh, my goodness.
And what's the book Gender Queer about?
Well,
for somebody who's not read it.
I'm not going to just take Gender Queer. I figured many people will already know that title from coverage. So I've picked out even more insidious titles that people won't know about that you'd have to read to get what I'm trying to drive at.
Honestly, I appreciate the guerrilla nature of this. I'm not certain that I would do it, but I really appreciate the guerrilla nature of what you're doing.
Help me. I mean, I'll be honest. You almost kind of seem to be proving Dave's point that that you're so aggressive with promoting LGBTQ that in light of Dave's email, you want to go put that in libraries all over the state of Colorado.
Well, free libraries, little
free libraries. Yeah. But I mean, for people to read.
And it will probably be a generation before all of those could be even found.
Yeah. I guess I wonder the idea of, if they're exposed to that book, that somehow it's going to turn them evil. Again, that's the assumption.
Well, I don't think
I know.
that.
Oh, I don't either. I don't either.
Then
John.
why promote the book? What's the point of promoting the book?
Awareness.
Thank you, Bill.
That you can become LGBT, that you are LGBT, that you should be LGBTQ.
That they are.
What's the point?
They exist in our society. They're there, and they can and should be treated as humans, not some of the assumptions that are set out in Dave Williams' email. He makes some assumptions on criminality and behavior on that group that is simply not fair, that he would push back against if they were made about himself. He would be incensed if people said that about him, but he feels free to color an entire group that way. And he does it in the very first sentence. Yeah, it's offensive.
But there are some, right? So in his email, he has pictures of little kids dealing with men in underwear, and that what happened in Castle Rock Pride, where you have totally exposed, fake breasts, but exposed
but again,
breasts.
In the Castle Rock Pride, though, hang on, that organization changed the rules, kicked that person out. That person's not allowed, and are more stringent as far as the requirements and what the presentations are.
Yeah.
So they did self-correct. It's not as if they went out there and went, "Hey, look, we showed kids fake boobs." They didn't celebrate that. They went, This was wrong, and we don't do this again. So you've got to give them credit for that.
So Dave points out that in this email that there are some that are totally inappropriate. I mean, he's got these pictures in here, grown men in underwear twerking in front of children. But this is to my point, John. Dave points out that there are people out there pushing the LGBTQ agenda in front of children. And you just told me you want to buy LGBTQ agenda books and put them in little neighborhood libraries all over the state. Aren't you just proving Dave's point?
Not all over the state, his district.
Okay, so you're still proving his point, right? That
say
there's an agenda out there being pressed by the LGBTQ agenda towards children. He's condemning it, and you're saying my response is I'm going to put these books in neighborhood libraries all over his district.
I don't see John's targeting kids though.
Who believe his things.
Yeah,
I imagine that a lot of those people might be afraid, because you know why? A mind is a terrible thing.
Yeah, especially an open mind. That's the worst kind.
All right, John. Well, I appreciate
Thanks,
the
man.
call. John's line will be open 303-696-1971. I'm going to get to these text messages in just a second. I want to talk to you about UltraCur. Look, there's lots of curcumin products out there all over the country. They require you to buy them to try them, but not with UltraCur. They believe so much in their product that you can go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast to address your soreness. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours and half of those within 2 hours. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers. Grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial with no strings attached. UltraCur is fueled by a patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you're wondering about the research, get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. All right, let's go to the text messages here. With all the real problems we have, I'm glad he's honest where the Colorado Republican Party is putting their focus. I wish he would have added God hates pride and immigrants just to make it 100% clear.
Ouch.
2820. Dave Williams' wife asks, does this dress make me look fat? Williams, yes. Why the hell would he even step on this minefield? How will this break off 4/5 of the voters the right needs to win? 0069. 8993. I don't support any of the ABC people's madness, but why not just call the Colorado Republican Party Dunder Mifflin? Not a failing paper company, but a failing political party. 8993. Most people don't understand what they're pushing on our young people and small children. If they did, they'd be furious. 5311. Well, all right, more text messages coming in. 7061. I'd be willing to match the caller and put Bibles in every free library. 7061. There we are. That's the culture we live in.
We can put the Bibles in the free libraries. It's I don't understand why he picks this fight. Why? Yeah. What is the political advantage? What is the gain for picking this fight here? It seems very weird, especially in Colorado. Why would you pick? I can understand you want to pick the fight in Arkansas.
There's an honest
Louisiana.
tactical question in a state that elected a gay governor, not just once, twice, with sizable margins, that this is going to win people over to our side.
Yeah.
Here's the one of the $1 million questions in this, right? So did Dave Williams advocate for something that's outside of the national party platform? No. The national party platform in multiple places argues that marriage is between a man and a woman. In part because the national party is made up predominantly of evangelicals. They are the single largest voting bloc, not just in the Republican Party, but in the nation when it comes to cohesive, single religious belief. They're the big ones. They're the elephant in the room. No pun intended. Kind of pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended.
So he's not outside the party, but there's a tactical question as to whether or not the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party in a state that has elected a gay governor, not once, but twice, by sizable margins, is correctly engaging in the right messaging in order for him to win this election.
Yeah. Does this draw any additional voters? Is this going to convince anybody that wasn't going to already select a Republican candidate? Does this message convince any of them to instead switch and choose a Republican? I can't see a single vote being changed by this in the positive side of the ledger for the Republicans, but I can see it drawing more people leaving and going over the Democrats. I think it can give them that permission to vote Democrat instead because of messaging like this. And it's going to be problematic. And I still go back to his very, very first opening phrase. And I will push back on this all day long and twice on Sunday. The idea, the assumption that because you are part of the LGBTQ community, that you're a groomer. And that's his assumption in that opening statement. And that is patently offensive and wrong. And he is making a large stereotypical judgment that is prejudicial and in some ways bigoted. And it's ridiculous. And that's not even borne out by actual facts as far as what we see. But it is an assumption that is being used to cast aspersions about an entire group. And it is disgusting. I'm sorry, but it is disgusting.
All right, fair. How about this side of it? And I believe Republicans are exactly right in this. Not just the LGBTQ, but going back to the sexual revolution in the 60s has fundamentally destroyed our culture. We have children born out of wedlock. We have record children in some communities being born out of wedlock who are not going to grow up with a mom and a dad investing in them, building a safe family, a safe place for them to grow up and thrive. And those kids born out of wedlock are more likely to end up in jail. They're more likely to not graduate from high school. They're more likely to be on welfare. There are all these social problems attributed to the liberals' destruction of the family and the embrace of the sexual revolution. The LGBTQ place where we are now is a continuation of that mindset, and the Republicans are rightfully pushing back against that in trying to restore our culture and strong and healthy families. What say you, Bill?
I would believe that if the Republicans were taking any steps to actually do that, as far as legislatively, where they are trying to support families, when they're trying to increase things like earned income tax credit for kids, when they're trying to give free childcare, trying to give free lunches at schools. If I saw them support the family structure, I could believe it, but they don't.
But what about a cultural battle? I mean, we don't have to run to the government and go, the government's the solution in this. We want to be a prophetic voice into the culture.
But here's the thing.
That the sexual revolution, the continuation of that into the LGBT community is destroying our culture.
Yeah, but the culture and the society is also us, the government, and it is us, the government.
In part.
And so, so if we want it to reflect our culture, that's part of the issue about the abortion laws, that you feel it's not reflecting where the culture should be or needs to be. And so we want to change those laws. So that's my point, is based on what we view in the culture, we make all sorts of laws all the time. And I do not see Republicans making those choices. They don't want to make sure that women are paid the same as men. But you know what? That would help the woman, even if she was left by some deadbeat husband or it was a divorce and she was a single mother. That would help her make sure that her kids can have a better future. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to give those parents the support. And God forbid we actually fund the public school system where these kids end up. So we create the process and then we complain about the results. Yeah, I'd agree with you that the American culture has changed, but I would say that from when the people with the buckles on their shoes stepped off the boat on the Mayflower, our culture has changed quite a bit over the entire process, and that is what's happening. So I see what you're saying about the changes in the culture and pushing back against them. But if that's true, then perhaps rather than complaining about it, we look at supporting the individuals to make the right choice. That's my argument about abortion, is that we don't support the woman making the right choice. We just want to ridicule her and punish her for making the choice rather than helping her make the correct choice. That's the issue. Same thing here. We would prefer to have single mothers be poor and have their kids grow up in poverty than to actually make sure they can find a way to succeed. That is preferential to us. So then we can't complain about it. It's what we say. It's what we set out to do.
But we're condemning Dave Williams for sending a message into the culture. So here's like your response I often hear on the abortion side too. So rather than jumping to the issue itself, because we have policy disagreements with the role of government, we're never going to get to whether or not the killing of a child in womb is murder in itself, and we as a culture should condemn that. So I want to go back to the issue itself because people are condemning Dave Williams for sending this email, right? we can jump into those policy issues all together.
Yeah.
Is the Colorado GOP wrong purely on the issue itself for sending out an email that says God hates pride?
Yes, it is. The GOP is wrong. And it's not because of the subject of the email. It's because of that opening statement. His very first sentence is wrong. It's not only wrong, it's bigoted. It's prejudicial. It's full of hate. It is awful. It is not the kind of thing you want to see a political party in any case doing, targeting any sort of group. And that's where it's wrong. And I agree with you on the change in the culture, and we can talk about that. And I agree, there have been some negative impacts based on sexual revolution and things that have happened in the culture afterwards. However, the statement that the LGBTQ community are groomers is offensive and wrong. And that way oversteps the boundaries of what has been proven, what exists in society. It is so filled with hate and animosity. I cannot understand why he would put it down onto an email and then send it. He can hold that in his heart all he wants and talk to his friends about it. But you want to make that position public? Really? It's so wrong on so many levels. And I think that, but you're right, though, about the idea that it pushing back in some cases on the culture. And I think it is a boomerang effect based on the culture, because these things about them being groomers and they're doing this to the kids, that's what we heard when the gays were coming out of the closet the first time. When we were going through 70s and 80s, it was, oh my God, why do they have to hold hands and kiss in front of me? Can't they do that in the privacy of their own home? Because when my kids see it, they're going to turn gay. They're doing this in front of me. They're being offensive. But
there are studies out there, especially on the trans, that especially among middle school and high school girls, there's been a massive increase in the amount of people identifying as trans to a level of social contagion that they're not trans.
Well,
they're just embracing it because the culture's promoting it.
Like that's an assumption that you've made that's not based in that research. The research shows an increase, but it doesn't show that causation that you're talking about. It doesn't say they're just doing it to be cool.
We talk more about trans, and all of a sudden kids think they're more about trans. You don't see a correlation there?
Well, no, not at all, because here's the reason. We could say that all of a sudden through the 70s and 80s, we talked more and more about gay people, and all of a sudden we had a lot of gay people. So they didn't just stop. They didn't just start. And here's the idea, is because is your sexuality a choice? It's not.
Yes, it is.
No,
100%.
No,
100%.
No,
there's a spectrum.
It's a choice.
We have 70 genders right now. That proved that there's an entire spectrum, and that people move back and forth all throughout.
No, what you're attracted to.
Yeah,
that's biological. It's
an absolute choice to engage in it.
No choice to engage, but the idea of who you're attracted to is biological. That is hardwired.
I don't think that's I don't think it's biological. I think.
Hang on. Wait, let me ask this a question then. When you were a young kid, who was the first boy you had a crush on?
I've never had a crush on a boy.
Wait, hang on. You didn't make a choice? You never looked at the cute boys and the cute girls and then made the choice to be heterosexual?
No, but I don't think it's purely a choice in the sense that I think if you embrace those desires, you kind of run down those desires, you go and say, I'm going to pursue these desires, they become stronger and stronger and stronger.
Wait, how many?
And so if you just the idea that this is why the LGBT community in many ways doesn't make logical sense, because in one way you're saying this thing is fixed, your sexual desire is fixed, but your gender identity is 90 plus different things that you can embrace a whole sorts of different things on.
Well, it's an exaggeration as far as 90 plus, but sexual orientation is different than gender identity. And the issue is you were talking about with the sexual orientation, chasing a desire. So who was the first young boy that you were desirous of when you were a kid? I'm not talking about something.
Not really any. But I also didn't chase them.
But did you never felt any desire at all for another little boy?
No.
Okay. Now, but the odd thing is that now you assume others do. And that's strange to me. That this is something that is antithetical to your experience and the experience of 99.9% of humans on this planet. There isn't a choice. It's how you were always wired. Because you don't agree with the choice,
Bill, how do you get guys that end up married in one moment and gay the next moment?
Why do you assume they were hetero to begin with?
Well, they were obviously attracted to a woman enough to marry her.
No, because have you heard the term beard?
Beard?
Beard inside of the gay community. A beard is a heterosexual relationship that covers up the fact that you are gay, because if you were gay, you would not be allowed in that community. Many people have beards.
And that happens now. No, I don't think that. I don't
Oh, yes, it does.
No,
and,
no.
and there are people that get married. Hang on. And there are people that, based on their religious upbringings, based on conscience, based on a number of other things, are pushing down and saying, I can't be gay. I'm not going to. I'm going to live the heterosexual life because that is right. And that's what society tells me. And guess what?
Bill,
those gay people can go and get married to heterosexual women. And it happens.
And make love and have families. And yet somehow they're attracted to dudes.
Yes.
And
yes,
also,
absolutely.
where
yes.
in
Wait,
your
hang on,
worldview are
because you said the choice.
bisexuals?
Hang
Where
on
in
a
your
sec.
worldview are bisexuals?
You said that they can make the choice to engage in that act. So a gay person can make the choice to engage in a heterosexual act. I mean, we can search all sorts of porn sites to say money can make people do things they may not be sexually attracted to based on the paycheck. So they can
I
make
feel
choices.
like you're jumping
different.
around
No.
here. When you
No.
asked me, you said, when was I ever attracted to boys? I said, never.
Yeah.
Never been. And so you go, okay, that's indication that sexuality is fixed. And then I just showed you examples of men who are married to women who abandon their families and then start gay relationships, and their sexuality changed.
No, it didn't. Their sexuality, they were always gay. And what I agreed with you on, hang on a sec, wait, no, let's go back. Hang on, wait. I agreed with you early on when you talked about making a choice to have sex with an individual. That is a choice. And you can make that choice for a lot of different reasons. Some people make that choice for money. Some people make that choice because they need to be in a heterosexual relationship. Anybody based on sexual orientation can make the choice to sleep with whoever they want. That can be done inside your head.
It's weird that you're attracted. You can have relations with people you're not attracted to.
That's the entire porn industry. That's what they do. I mean, they don't come up and say, do you like how this person looks?
But so now
They put
you're
you together.
equating those. I don't.
No, what I'm doing here is
I don't know how.
What I'm trying to explain is that fundamentally, biologically, your sexual orientation is fixed. However, because we are humans, we can have the choice to go out there and have all the weird sex that you were talking about.
How do you know it's fixed? What's the evidence of that?
You just confirmed that for me.
No, I did. I also showed you that people change.
No, you didn't show me they changed. You
yes,
showed me.
I did.
No,
they change between relationships, which is what my original argument was, is that you can embrace different, based upon what you do. You can go down and chase and embrace different desires.
You asked me about the guy that left the family and then started a gay relationship.
Yeah.
In my experience, the people that I know, universally, they are homosexual and they got heterosexually married and now are living homosexually. That's it. They decided to be the heterosexual, figuring there was something broken or flawed inside of them. No, they were never hetero. They weren't. They will tell you. I have a friend that will tell you how much he was disgusted about making love to his wife. He loves his ex-wife, loves her, thinks she's a wonderful person. No sexual desire between them, but he got married because he had to, because the society at our time, when we're growing up through 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, he couldn't be.
Bill, I've known guys that have been in gay relationships and then converted to Christianity and now live straight lives. Their desires changed.
Well, they changed them, yes. Yeah. But chances are they're still gay. They still will sit there. And I mean, I understand the conversion therapy, but it's also been shown to be vastly ineffective. And can someone
I know guys have been married for 20 plus years after their conversion.
Yeah.
And are living biblically committed lives.
Yes. And that's exactly the same reason that I talked about earlier, where the guy is homosexual and gets into a heterosexual relationship and then eventually leaves it. It's the exact same thing. No, it's the exact same thing.
They're pointing out that you can change.
What they've decided is to embrace those desires. They're still gay.
That was my original argument, that you can embrace certain desires and that they grow as a result of you embracing them.
Possibly, but the idea is you never had it. But the issue is the sex or sexual orientation being hardwired, because you yourself admit you had no desires for anybody the same sex, and so that desirous relationship, no. And can those homosexual individuals suppress those urges? They're asked to inside of all the churches. They can't act on them. You're allowed to have gay congregants, but you can't go out and do the gay stuff.
That's correct.
So the idea of someone suppressing that and then living into a heterosexual relationship, sure, yes, absolutely, especially because that person then is accepted by the church community. Because remember, as long as you are homosexual in the church community, you're still a second-class citizen because you don't get to participate in everything.
Or they've actually had a genuine conversion. All right, lots of text messages here. Lots of text messages. All right, 7127. Morning, Bill. Do you think it's the lack of GOP support or the left that sets those items up as a way to buy votes without regard to how the legislative items will be funded? Doug. All right. Thanks, Doug. 9884, God doesn't hate. Our friend Eric, Dave Williams is right as rain. Speak it loud and proud. Go, Dave. 9716, pretty easy to look at those gay parades and call it grooming. There's some really disgusting stuff. I've never understood why, if they want to be fully accepted, they aren't more serious about what goes on in some of those parades. 5551, amen, Billy. Jeff, your conviction confirmed. I'm not sure what they're talking about. 6856, Jeff, don't speak about things you don't know about. I grew up in an evangelical Christian household, but I'm gay and have Christian parents. Stop with the choice garbage. 9856. 5637, you should have Abe Layden on to discuss these issues. Maybe we will. Marty, congrats on coming out of the closet, Bill. I don't think Bill came out of the closet.
What? I appreciate you, Marty. I know that you're just trying to, throw rocks and make fun of me. But again, you're further down on the list of people that have already done that this morning. If you got a set of stones, you know the number. Let's see. 0893. Jeff needs to sit down and watch Brokeback Mountain. That will explain what Bill's trying to tell him. Bill, ask about attraction to little boys. Yeah, but that's normally heterosexual.
Yeah, but even if it's there, you don't indulge it, right? Like, it's not.
No.
Right. Okay.
But that's not a sexual orientation necessarily.
They would say it is.
Oh, I understand. But
1346, Jeff, just shut up and listen right now. It's abundantly clear that you have zero understanding of human sexuality. I have zero understanding of it. Okay, William the Great. I do have 4 kids, so I understand part of it.
You know how some stuff works. All the fun stuff. You know exactly how that works.
Bill the Great is right. I have a bunch of gay friends who have kids from past wives. I asked them why and how. They've said they've come from a conservative family, and they said this is right, but to them, it never felt right. William, you're right. Keep it up.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm seeing Billy in a whole new light here. 5311.
Uh-oh.
3264. So the guy is a heterosexual relationship, turns gay, means he was always gay. But how about a gay guy who turns heterosexual? Was he always heterosexual? 3264. Good questions. All right, we're going to get to the phone lines in here in just a second. I want to talk to you about good dentistry. I've had a lot of dental work done because I have bad teeth thanks to genetics. With all the work I've done, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to talk to you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. You can see for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Do yourself a favor, go there. Staff goes beyond expectations. They provide excellent service, affordable, friendly, reasonable, gentle, careful, and kind service. And if you're experiencing recession on your upper or lower gums, ask Dr. Mike about the groundbreaking procedure called pinhole gum rejuvenation technique, a treatment option for those experiencing receding gums. It's scalpel-free, suture-free. It's a graft-free procedure, just a tiny pinhole and a gentle repositioning of the gums. Visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, or call 303-233-1335 for a free consultation. That's 303-233-1335. All right, we'll get to your calls and texts. Paul, you're up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. In 2023, more women climbed the corporate ladder to become CEOs. In New York, Haley Bianco has the story.
More women are reaching the top ranks of the corporate suite of S&P 500 companies, but their numbers are still much lower compared to their male counterparts. The findings come from AP's and Equilar's compensation study. Of the 341 CEOs at S&P 500 companies who have served at least 2 fiscal years at their companies, 25 were women. That's the most women making the list since Equilar and AP started doing the study in 2011. But the numbers haven't budged that much. The second highest tally was 21 in 2017. The study included pay data for filed proxy statements between January 1st and April 30th.
Opening statements were delivered to the jury on Tuesday in Hunter Biden's federal gun charges trial. In a court in Wilmington, Delaware, prosecutors said that President Joe Biden's son lied about his illegal drug use when he bought a gun back in 2018. The defense said that the 54-year-old had, quote, no intent to deceive. Mr. Biden has pled not guilty to the 3 charges against him. He's also facing federal tax charges in the state of California. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Having a wonderful conversation. Spicy conversation. Colorado Republican Party sending out the email, God hates pride. We played part of the audio of the sermon that Dave Williams referenced, as well as the response from Valdemar Archuleta. Look, Colorado, not just Republicans, but national Republicans are their biggest voting bloc are evangelicals. The definition of marriage, as defined by the Bible, is is essentially the same that the National Party references, that is between one man and one woman. So what is the evangelical worldview? I think that's important. We've kind of debated around this. I just want to take a moment to share what the evangelical worldview is when it comes to marriage. All sexual activity, if you're attracted to a woman, if you're attracted to a man, if you're attracted to whatever else out there, all sexual activity takes place within the covenant of marriage. That's why evangelicals are against pornography. That's why evangelicals push back on the sexual revolution, because they believe that that is the best guidance from God to flourishing humanity. Now, I recognize we live in a culture that embraces kind of do what you want. You should have the freedom to do what you want. But the evangelical worldview, and that rooted in the teachings of the Bible, is that sexual activity takes place within marriage. And so you're going to get this pushback that comes from the Republican Party. But here's, I think, a fair critique from my perspective of Dave Williams' email. It's incomplete. It is just the condemnation side, just the truth side, without any of the grace side.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so Jesus, it said, came in John 1:14. The word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Christians should be marked just as much for their stand on truth as they are marked by their stand and embrace of grace, which means we are winning people to our side. We are calling them to salvation. We are introducing them to the life and love that comes from Jesus Christ. And if your only work is condemnation and no truth or no grace, then you're missing out on, you're only providing half of it. And frankly, it's a big half. It's who Jesus was. And people could go, well, that's a contradiction, right?
He was a contradiction, though.
But he was. I mean, grace and truth works together in a very unique way. And I gave a speech at the Capitol on Religious Freedom Day, and Polis was there and all this stuff. I think we are losing our ability to hold our deeply held convictions and maintain loving relationships with one another.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that hurts my heart. I tweeted about this yesterday. I said, we're losing, our political class is losing, or should be reading, two very important books. One, the Holy Bible, and second, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Smart. That is very smart. That is really, really smart. Because this is not making friends or influencing anybody.
And I think that's a fair critique, that it's only half the story. If you believe, and I think Dave's right, that from my perspective, that the LGBT community and what they're doing to kids and what they've done as a continuation, I don't hold them out there on their own, but as a continuation of the fall of our culture from the sexual revolution, should be rightfully condemned and challenged. But it's half the message, because the other half of the message is grace, love, hope, and a personal relationship with the God of the universe that changes you and gives you everything that you're looking for and brings you salvation. So I had to take a moment of personal privilege to
I appreciate that. And I'll make this quick because I know we're up against the clock, and then we'll try to get to the caller in a sec. Some of the problem I have in the messaging is, as I outlined earlier, I saw the same messaging when we were coming out of civil rights era. I saw the same messaging when gay people were coming out of the closet. I saw the same messaging about them changing the culture, how they weren't going to be full participants in society, how they're doing bad things to kids. And the thing for me is it's just the noun in that sentence that has changed. It's just the group that has changed. The message and the objections are exactly the same, but the target is different. That's why I've got an issue with it.
Give us a call, 303-696-1971. We're going to get to Paul in just a second, as well as your text messages, because there's a lot of them. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Paul Arvada, you're on the Jeff and Bill
Yes,
Show.
sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Jeff had mentioned that the culture's been changing, and it just occurred to me that, it's been changing since the beginning of time. Ever since.
Do you think it's progressing or regressing?
Well, in this day and age, we're in a lot of trouble. That's for sure.
Yeah, because Christians have worked in pagan societies in the past and have actually turned them to become more biblical and more Christian. So that happened in Greece. It happened in Rome. It even happened in England under William Wilberforce. So Christians have brought culture back. So just because it changes doesn't mean it can't be necessarily brought back the other direction.
I don't judge anyone, and I understand. It's just the difference between right and wrong when it really comes down to everything. Everything else is, to me, politics or religion. Now, I'm a pretty religious guy, but at the same time, I'm not going to try to push it on anybody else. Just like I don't believe anybody should be pushing their lifestyle.
But Paul, do you think it's important for Christians to have a voice in the public square, though? To be bold, to share their values, just like the other sides do? We're gonna have a parade. We're gonna have a parade of 500,000 for gay pride down here.
I think it's wrong. I think that's wrong.
I think Christians need to be able to share their voices.
You could have a parade for. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying you could have a parade for more positive. That we're all together about.
Yeah, 4th of July. That's it. Paul, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Guys, we've had a great conversation. Thanks so much. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll be right back.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Made it.
While I was sitting, Bill and I went through a cathartic episode.
This morning, which is cool.
Talking about being quick to apologize.
Yeah.
You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, gay, straight. Who knows? We're all over the map today.
It's been so much fun, though.
people putting Bibles in little mini libraries. People putting what was this
LGBTQ,
book?
yeah. Genderqueer, books out there.
And the cultural battle is taking place right here on 710K.
And at those free libraries in your neighborhood. That's great.
No one's going to visit them because it's just going to be political fights. It's going to be like your Facebook comment section.
And people be taking books in and out. And there was one, there's another state, and it's not here in Colorado, but another state where the neighborhood was mad because someone was mad about the books that were being left in the free libraries. So he's going around cutting them down. So he was cutting the posts down, just taking the things home. And you're like, I'm not sure that's exactly the best approach.
Oh, it's
but
a divided country we live in, but it's the greatest country in history. So we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Get another cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter the most to you right here, right now. Coming up after the news, John Carson, candidate for Douglas County Commissioner, is going to join us. You heard Priscilla Ron. You've heard, I'm forgetting his name, the other one.
He was just here. He's not
you and him got in a debate when we were down at the state party.
Oh, I debate a lot of people.
John, what's his name?
I have a tendency to,
Kevin Lumber, Kevin Van Winkle. Kevin Van Winkle. We've had Kevin Van Winkle on. We've had Priscilla Ron on. And now we'll have John Carson, which is great. By the way, on Friday, Greg Lopez is going to be joining us. So all the ballots are out.
Ooh.
Got to get Is Dagna in? Is Dagna joining us?
Again, we got the email back. She's super busy. Way too busy. She has other priorities. Yes, that's okay. Oh, I have some of those priorities.
Largest conservative talk radio station in Colorado. That's not one I should be on. Sorry, Dagna. I'm going to talk about that because
can't help you get
that's
votes.
like the one thing. I won't beat up Republicans on many things, but when you're like, I'm not going to do your show and you tell us that.
Yeah. And the other part is that it's, and I appreciate other politicians, and Dagna's opponent in the race, George Brockler, had this, that if you set up a microphone and a set of lights, I will come and talk to you, because the idea being that George is confident in his message that he is not going to lose votes. The only thing I can do is convert people that are listening. And convert people.
And I want to talk to constituents.
Exactly.
I have a great story on this, by the way. This is a little sidebar.
Please.
So I was working for the state party. I just finished Romney. I was now working with the state party. And I took a video camera down to Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I was helping the state party be like, let's go make friends in the Latino community.
Oh, yeah.
I went down to Juneteenth. I went to all this stuff because I was like, we're going to make friends.
Yeah.
And so I'm out there filming in Cinco de Mayo, and Mayor Wellington Webb is walking in the Cinco de Mayo parade.
Yeah.
And he sees me and he switches. So I've got a camera with a light on it. He doesn't know I'm with the state party, whatever. He doesn't know who I am, but he sees a camera. Dude walks all the way across the street to put himself right in front of the camera and is like, hello, I'm Mayor Wellington Webb. It was so obvious.
Yes.
I was like, that's the reason the dude was the mayor.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that idea that, people that are involved in show business. You have this idea of people that are involved in radio, that the joke has been for years. They go to the fridge, they open it, the light goes on, and they do 5 minutes. That's it. That's pretty much what happens. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, John Carson's going to join us in just a second. I'm going to give him the tough questions. What is he going to do about Castle Rock Pride, Parker Pride? Like the last conversation, he's going to answer that, plus all the development that's happening in Douglas County. Or we're just turning it into Arapahoe, Jeffco. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. But let's check in on the news. The Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, did Mayor Webb have his tennis shoes on that day?
I think he did. I think he did. By the way, he came out against.
That was a good little thing.
Oh, very smart.
What's that?
And he came out against pot.
Good for him. I didn't know that.
After originally embracing it, he and the NAACP is like, this is bad news for our community, and turned against it. And I was like, well, Oh,
okay.
Getting a little eyebrow raise for myself.
And on another date, another time, I will share the story about why Wellington Webb refused to talk to Peter Boyles for almost 2 decades. Refused to even.
You told me that story.
Heard that
It is
story.
He's got to tell that after this.
It's a great story. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, let me get my sneakers on here. 72 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Too little, too late. Mr. President, Joe Biden, this is too little. This is too late.
President Biden has heard it from everyone now. He signed an executive order to limit the flow of illegal immigrants after 2,500 come in at the southern border.
We came to a clear bipartisan deal. It was the strongest border security agreement in decades. But then Republicans in Congress, not all, but walked away from it. Why? Because Donald Trump told them to.
So they're going to be counting them. I don't know if they have a bean counter, or they have a clicker, or what's going to happen. Over the last 2 years, 350,000 people who applied for asylum had their cases closed because they were deemed not to be a security threat. Senator John Carson called this a backdoor version of amnesty. Illegal immigrants whose cases are terminated are not required to check in with federal immigration authorities.
So they've opened the front door, and when the room gets too crowded, they open the back door. It is a shell game, and we think it deserves to be called out for what it is. The same laws that were in effect back when President Trump was in office are still in effect. The difference is the unwillingness of this administration to enforce the law.
Well, we talked about this a few hours ago. President Biden shows signs of cognitive decline, according to a Wall Street Journal story that's out, and they're talking about it in D.C. The paper interviewed more than 45 people, and while most of those who voiced concern were Republicans, some Democrats also said it was noticeable. The story includes accounts that the 81-year-old Biden displays unevenness in meetings and is sometimes hard to hear when he speaks.
From receiving asylum. Migrants.
Well, a Southwest flight headed to Phoenix had to make an emergency landing at DIA after one of the tires failed during takeoff on Monday, and Southwest told KDVR that the flight landed without incident and taxied off the runway. One person in custody following a Tuesday stabbing near Union Station in downtown. Police arrested a suspect, and he's been identified as 28-year-old Mark Thomas, and there's no word on the victim's current condition. Aurora police searching for a hit-and-run driver who injured a woman last Sunday. Rachel Fisher was hit by a car while she was walking to an Uber, and then the collision was caught on a surveillance camera. Fisher had to have knee surgery, suffered a concussion, and is still recovering from her injuries. Surveillance images of the car involved have been released to the public, and anyone with information is asked to contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. The Rockies lose to the Reds 4-1. Getaway day today at 1:10 first pitch at Coors Field. It's 69 in Louisville and 70 in Glendale and 72 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on the Power Hour on Hump Day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 7-10 5-day forecast. Sunny to partly sunny, and it will be warm. Temperatures upper 80s to near 90 today, a little breezy, and it will be dry 50s tonight. Dry, warm, near 90 Thursday. Mid to upper 80s to as warm as the lower 90s on Friday. Today and Thursday dry, but Friday will bring afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms likely for the weekend. 80 Saturday, but cooling to the 70s Sunday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Joining us in studios, John Carson. He's a candidate for Douglas County Commissioner. John, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Great to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having me, and Bill as well. Thank you.
All right, you're in a competitive Republican primary, probably one of the most competitive because you got some good Republicans. Kevin Van Winkle, Priscilla Ron. Priscilla Ron used to be the vice chair of the state party. Kevin Van Winkle, a state house, state senate, got numerous Centennial Institute, Faith, Family, and Freedom Awards. So competitive primary. Why are you best to lead Douglas County?
Yeah, well, I've lived in Douglas County with my wife. We've been married 37 years, and our 3 kids, we've been there almost a quarter century. We're very committed to keeping Douglas County special. I've been active there in a number of positions, was president of the school board there at a time when we put in a whole host of school choice policies. 1 in every 4 students now in Douglas County can be in a charter school due to our policies. We ended the teachers union contract. We actually ended up fighting the ACLU all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court on a school voucher program we put in place. And we won that case essentially in the end, but unfortunately the board had flipped over to more liberal members who killed the program. I was also a University of Colorado regent from that area. Went to CU undergrad and law school. I've been in business and law for over 3 decades. I think I've got the kind of experience we need as in the county commissioner position. It's a $700 million budget nearly, and you want some good management skills in there, doing a good job of oversight, keeping the taxes low. And that's the prime reason I'm running is these property taxes are out of control. The cost of living is excessive. People are really suffering with the cost of living now. We're adding this extra burden of property taxes on top of that. We got to keep cutting those property taxes back. We got to support law enforcement. Illegal immigration is the other big issue that comes up when I go door to door. People are really tired of all the money the government, they are paying essentially to subsidize illegal immigration, the schools, the hospitals, all of the facilities, hundreds of millions of dollars now. New study out by the Common Sense Institute just went to a panel yesterday on that. It's over $300 million being spent on illegal immigration here in Colorado. So it's out of control, and I'm going to be looking to be tough on that issue and also work hard to reduce the property taxes.
Let's go candidate by candidate because you've already got the ballots out. People have them on their kitchen tables. They've got to look there and they see John Carson, Priscilla Ron, Kevin Van Winkle. Start with Kevin. Why are you better than Kevin?
Well, I respect his legislative service. I'm not a career politician. I haven't been in a paid political position, for a long period of time there as he has. I think, he's elected to be a state senator, and I think he should continue to be a state senator. But, I'm running because I think I'm the most qualified. I've got the skills of management, oversight, budgetary. As I mentioned, as a CU regent, we oversaw a $4 billion budget for university campuses. I've managed large teams of employees in executive positions. I've got the skill set to be a county commissioner. A legislator, I think, has a different skill set. I think you want someone with the management, business, law background that I have.
Let's talk Priscilla Ron, former vice chair of the Colorado Republican Party. She has out fundraised you nearly 2-1, almost over 2-1. You're at, I believe, 42,000. She's at 103,000. Is Priscilla Ron the Republican pick in this?
Well, I'm concerned about special interest money in supporting Priscilla. One of the big issues in our race is this RWR water project that they've come to the county, asked for money. There was a vote on $10 million. Initially, the request was $20 million. Essentially would make Douglas County a water provider. We need to listen to our water districts. I don't want the county to become a water provider. We've got 14 good, solid water districts in the county. That's who I'll listen to. I think there's a lot of special interest money flowing in supporting that project. And I'm concerned about that. People in the county are concerned about that. That's the main issue in the race vis-a-vis the difference between Priscilla and I.
Yeah, here's the thing, John, I've noticed about county commissioners and developers. They end up with a close relationship because there's a lot of money to be made for developers. Tell me how you're going to balance And I've seen this firsthand. I've written about it and I get frustrated about it. I go into these planning meetings and I feel like a third wheel on a date, that the county commissioners and the developers, they all love each other because the county commissioners get money for their campaigns. They get tax revenue from the development. So they love this stuff. And the residents are going, well, hold on. I don't want Douglas County to look like Aurora. I don't want it to look like Jeffco, for a few reasons. One, I don't like the congestion, but two, these counties have changed. There's been a 25-point swing in Douglas County. You now have a Democrat that's representing Highlands Ranch down at the state capitol. Mitt Romney won Douglas County by 25 points, Heidi Ganahl by less than 1 percentage point. So these counties change with high density multifamily development. I think it's why the Democrats are trying to force this upon these counties, because they know these will become permanently blue counties if they get their way. Tell me how you balance property rights with developers and the fact that the people that live there have made this their home, don't want to see all those changes happening.
Yeah, well, first off, I've been very careful not to take special interest money, as I would call it. I have no issues with developers per se. I have no, as long as development is based on merit, it's not based on political influence and pull. And the community needs to have strong input on that. I think we need to have more balance in the county of growth versus preservation. I'm actually the only candidate in these commissioner races that's really talking about that issue. And whenever I bring it up to people, they're 100% on board. They really feel like the county is not looking hard enough at the balance between growth and preservation. There's a lot of congestion now. There's a sense that things have gotten out of control and moved too fast on the development side. I want to make sure we take a good hard look at the county long-term plan and revisit that. Make sure we've got adequate programs for for preservation of open space and recreation. We had a ballot issue in Douglas County a couple of years ago for a slight sales tax for open space preservation, and then got 87% of the vote. I don't think you can find any issue out there to get 87% of the vote in a very generally conservative county. So this is a big issue for me.
We're going to continue with John Carson. He's a candidate for Douglas County Commissioner. His website, carsonforcommissioner.com. That's carsonforcommissioner.com. I want to talk to you real quick about Dan Kaplis, my friend Dan. I've known Dan for decades. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. This guy is with us on the values, and he suggested you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. He's the son of a police officer. He's also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But he's a titan in the courtroom too, and that matters. You need to go to battle, and Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. All right, John Carson, I want to ask you about Castle Rock Pride. Now, people may not be familiar with this, but a few years ago, they had a, quote, family-friendly pride event where a man dressed as a woman with fake breasts exposed those fake breasts, and there was a lot of outrage, and I think rightfully so. We asked Kevin Van Winkle this question. He said no more of these family-friendly pride events, quote, family-friendly pride events taking place. He's not going to allow them. He's going to vote against them as county commissioner. Where do you stand on those, John?
Well, I think as you point out there, it wasn't a family-friendly event, and that's where I draw the line. Is exposure to children. I would have ended it there with that particular episode. It violated, I think, the community understanding of what would be presented. And the commissioners then, unfortunately, I think, got into this big negotiation and agreement to keep it going forward. I think you just ended at that point. And the issue there, I think where people are concerned is about government entanglement with those type of programs, funding wise, and perception of co-sponsorship. And I want to keep the county government, out of that. I don't think it's the proper role of the county government to be involved in that.
I think one of the concerns from county commissioners is that they could end up in a free speech lawsuit. Would the county have to spend funds then to fight back?
Well, some things are worth fighting for. My position on it, I would push back as much as we can within the law. In terms of legal fights, as I mentioned, when I was president of the school board, we put a voucher program in that included religious schools, private schools, all schools. We were challenged by the ACLU. And a lot of people said, well, you don't want that legal fight. You're going to have legal fees. But we had a lot of allies that joined us and contributed to those fees, and we won in the end. And so I'm not afraid of a good legal fight as long as we're on solid legal ground. So I would talk to the attorneys. I would take a look at the precedents. But I think the county government has a right to reflect the values of the citizens of the community. And all I've heard from people is they were offended by that.
Now, John Carson, candidate for Douglas County Commissioner, joining us. Help me square the circle on equal access. How would you come to that particular community and say, well, we have decided that you are not allowed equal access to this publicly funded facility? Because that's what the choice would be. It is where these shows went on. It is a public venue. It is something that is paid for by the taxpayers. How do you then turn to that group and say, we are denying you that fair and equal access?
Yeah, I think that was the problem, and that it is under the jurisdiction of the town of Castle Rock, and we do need the town to step up and make it clear what the rules are. You got to have good rules in place about public decency, what's allowed with minors, and so I would make it clear we need the city of Castle Rock to put that in writing. I believe they're working on that. They have made some changes there. And my understanding is that event will not occur again this year in large part because the town of Castle Rock is going to make it clear that that's not within their views of public decency.
Now, how explain that to me as far as the views of public decency? What is the thing as far as I understand the exposure of the fake breasts, but that was not something that was planned, nor was it condoned. And the individual that happened to, the group that was responsible for the organization, is not allowing them to present anymore, and they have changed the requirements for performances. How then is that still against the standards and the decencies of the community?
Well, I think the issue there was they were violated in that particular case. As I said earlier, I would have just ended it at that point. You violated the rules, and
okay. Well, hang on. Let me interrupt you right there, because if that's just that you violated the rules, then we should have no more Super Bowl halftime shows. Because once Janet Jackson exposes the nipple with Justin Timberlake, that's against decency. That's against FCC rules. Would you then agree that based on the same premise that you have, we should have canceled all the Super Bowl halftime shows at that instant and not had another one?
Well, I obviously I don't have much say in that, but
no, I'm just asking. I'm giving you the magic wand. I'm giving you the magic wand. You are now the commissioner of the NFL. You saw this happen based on your previous statement about how this happened once, and it was against decency. We have to cancel it in perpetuity. So now, based on that same standard that you outlined, are you canceling the Super Bowl halftime shows in perpetuity based on the Janet Jackson nipple?
Well, I wouldn't cancel them all, but I would certainly support changes to what you would call, I think, more, family-friendly programming. The audience being sensitive to that, I would support.
I appreciate that, because now you've just agreed with the organizers of that LBGTQ and the drag show, because that's exactly what they did. That was where I started.
But I think too that you have a large. it's not just like a one-off event. Pride events are regularly explicit. And so I think it's right for county commissioners to have real questions as to whether or not these regular pride events that regularly are explicit are going to continue to have that.
I agree with you 110%. And there should be a requirement in any sort of a pride celebration and or parade for an okay process for any of the floats or anybody that's marching. And that's universal across when you're going to participate in the parade. They want to know kind of what you're going to do. Yep. So yes, absolutely. Is it offensive in a pride parade where you have children around to have scantily clad either men or women gyrating and doing things that are more of an adult nature? Yes. Is it also can we cast aspersions and tell the LGBT community be better? Yes. Don't come out here if you want to be accepted as equals and you want to this. Don't come out and do that in front of the families because you wouldn't want it done in front of your family. They need to have that. And yes, absolutely, the community should have those guardrails. But where I push back with John Carson, candidate for Douglas County Commissioner, is the idea of canceling them in perpetuity. I think there are other things that can be done, just like he agreed he wouldn't cancel the Super Bowl halftime show. So I think we're closer than we are apart.
John, you want to respond?
Well, I think it is up to the town of Castle Rock and the citizens to come up with clear guidelines about what, comports with community decency and also access to children. If that's in writing, then as commissioners, that gives us the basis to deny it. If it's not in writing, if they haven't done their job, then Bill has certainly a valid point that we can't, just make decisions in a vacuum. As an attorney, you've got to have procedures and rules that are followed and put in place and that are fair to everybody. But I would certainly be working with the citizens that are concerned about this in the town to get that clarified and in writing.
Talking with John Carson, he's a candidate for Douglas County Commissioner. I'm going to ask him in a second about how he's going to get along with the other commissioners, because I feel like we have a reality television show down there sometimes where there's some serious fighting to take away credit cards and challenges and investigations and all that. How's he going to get along with the other county commissioners? I want to talk to you first about QC Kinetics helping you get rid of that pain, that elbow pain, joint pain, back pain in your life. Look, it's robbing millions of people of the quality of their life, the joy in their life, but there's hope. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, lower back pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement. Why risk surgery when there's a safer option? Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. No downtime, free consultation. QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Give them a call, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. Be sure to tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. We're going to get some calls here in just a second, but John, I want to ask you about how you plan to get along with Abe and George down in Douglas County.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I know them both. I've known them for a number of years. When I was president of the school board or on the board of regents, I think I demonstrated ability to work with my colleagues, might disagree with them, keep it professional. I think that I've got that style. I'm about ideas. I'm not about personalities when it comes to government. I want to get things done and fight for lower taxes, deal with this illegal immigration problem, all of these public funds that people are so tired of going out there, supporting law enforcement. And as we talked about earlier, a big priority I think that might be different from the other commissioners right now is I'm going to put more emphasis on open space preservation, expansion, recreation, keeping that balance between growth and the natural beauty of Douglas County. But I will do that in a professional way. I'll ask for the opportunity to have some of the past policies visited and looked at, and keep it professional.
John Carson, I want to ask you, what are three things, you just listed a number of them, maybe open space is one of them. What are three things you're going to do as county commissioner I can hold you accountable for when you're up for re-election?
Well, the property taxes is the first one. The current occupant of the seat, she's term limited, Laura Thomas, has had to vote to lower property taxes 6 times in the 8 years she's been in there. Because what happens is with that assessed in this state, the assessments go up and there's no control on that. You keep ratcheting up the revenue to the government. And so I will always fight to keep that. I believe in the basic Tabor limits is the government's revenue should not grow faster than population growth and inflation. And if it's more than that, that's an unfair windfall to the government. It should go back to the taxpayer. So that's number one. Number two is fighting this illegal immigration issue, making it clear, as the commissioners have, that we're not going to subsidize that, support that. We don't want busloads of unscheduled busloads of immigrants, illegals coming into the county. And third, as I mentioned, solid work on that open space expansion, using those tax dollars wisely to protect and preserve the beauty of Douglas County.
John Carson, you willing to take some calls?
Sure.
All right, we'll get to these calls in just a second. I want to talk to you about Colorado Christian University. Is your student ready to live out their faith and prepare for their future career? For over 100 years, Colorado Christian University has been educating the next generation of Christian leaders in a distinctly Christ-centered community. CCU is the premier interdenominational Christian university in the Rocky Mountain region. They offer world-class education, ranking in the top 2% of all colleges nationwide for their rigorous academics. Students can choose from over 100 undergraduate programs ranging from psychology, entrepreneurship, theology, and engineering to their nationally acclaimed nursing and education programs. CCU cultivates real faith that equips students in all areas of life. Their small campus, Christ-centered community set CCU apart. At CCU, students are known by name, not by number. Professors are mentors, developing students spiritually and professionally. No matter what degree path they choose, your student will graduate from Colorado Christian ready to impact the world with grace and truth. To learn more and apply, go to ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. John Carson in studio is going to take Brad's call. When we come back, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Opening statements were delivered to the jury on Tuesday in Hunter Biden's federal gun charges trial. In a court in Wilmington, Delaware, prosecutors said that President Joe Biden's son lied about his illegal drug use when he bought a gun back in 2018. The defense said that the 54-year-old had, quote, no intent to deceive. Mr. Biden has pled not guilty to the 3 charges against him. He's also facing federal tax charges in the state of California. U.S. lawmakers are set to vote on whether to protect access to contraception at a national level 2 years after the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortion. Tony Waterman has more.
Ever since Roe was overturned, Democrats have warned it was just the tip of the iceberg. And this vote in the Senate is really a way to force Republicans, many of whom have voted in favor of abortion bans, to stake out a position on contraception in an election year where reproductive rights are top of mind for a lot of voters. This bill is unlikely to get the 60 votes needed to pass. GOP leaders say many Republicans support contraception, but they don't believe legislation is needed to protect access to it. And they believe this vote is nothing more than political showmanship.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Joining us in studio is John Carson. He's a candidate for Douglas County Commissioner. His website, carsonforcommissioner.com, if you want to learn more about him. Let's go to the phone lines. Joy in Parker, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joy.
Good morning.
Hi, guys. How goes it?
Good. How are you today?
Great day. Yeah. I wanted to say, and John kind of got into this a little bit, but I wanted to say Priscilla Ron has taken tens of thousands of dollars in contributions and donations from the people who are pushing this RWR, Renewable Water Resources boondoggle, that the water lawyer that the county hired already said, he did a deep dive into it, and he said, run, do not walk, run from this deal. And she's taken at least, and these numbers, anybody can look these numbers out on the Tracer website, the Secretary of State Tracer website, their public contribution numbers. She's taken, and my last time I looked at this, actually, it was in the November reporting. I didn't look at the newest one because she'd taken about half of her contributions from people like the Slatterys, Sean Tonner, John Kim, who's the attorney for RWR, Hugh Bernardi, who's an investor.
And Joy, what's wrong with RWR and their water project? Give people an overview of where the problem is. Or John, do you want to answer that?
Well, I think it's, as I mentioned, makes the county a water provider. That's not our role. We have water districts to take on that challenge, number one. Number two, the taxpayer money. I mean, it's one thing, approving developments or projects, but this is an extra layer. It's not only would it be approved by the county, we'd become an investor in the project. We would spend millions of dollars just as a down payment. And if it would end up in water court for many, many years, but then if it was approved, it would become a massive investment for the county potentially. And so there's a lot of concern about the long-term implications of something like that.
And this is the
describe what it actually is.
Joy, go ahead, please.
Yeah, is that these co-conspirators, kind of these con job people who are trying to push this on the county, would actually suck water from the dry San Luis Valley where the farmers are suffering from drought and try to pipe it hundreds of miles to Douglas County. And as John says, that, as I said, the water attorney who the county hired said, this isn't going to work. This is ridiculous. And they keep pushing it and pushing it. And George Teal voted for it last time because he's all involved in the development situation with his wife.
Well, I mean,
working for Larry Mizell.
Joy, I want to
and all he needs is one more vote. And Priscilla, if she gave him that vote, we would be underwater as a county, literally, for tens of millions of dollars. And as John says, it would be tied up in water court for years.
Joy, I want to take the other side, though, on this. Our county needs water. What's wrong? What's wrong with trying to get us some water?
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's what all these water districts are doing. They've got reservoir projects. They've got all kinds of water reclamation projects.
Let me ask John this question, Joy. What's wrong with them trying to get water from the San Luis Valley?
Well, that's the point, is we do have the tradition here in Colorado is we have local elected water districts. We have 14 of those. They're doing a lot of projects and studies on water. Also, just in particular, Parker Water, one of them, has a large-scale project underway with counties in the northeast part of the state to have water rights off of the Platte River. And that project will be up and running in a number of years and will provide a great deal of water that we need in Douglas County. So I'm not concerned about the supplies we have in place. I don't see the point in us investing in the county becoming a water provider in this additional layer.
Here, I just want to raise this question. You guys could tell me if I'm wrong on this. These guys with RWR have created a big effort to try to get water rights from San Luis Valley's millions of dollars they have bought down there. And the expectation was that COVID funding to Douglas County was going to build the pipeline that brought that water across. And the commissioners voted no against it, in part because of you're going to have to build a giant pipeline from San Luis up to Douglas County to get the water here. So now these guys with RWR have millions of dollars of investments in water rights in San Luis Valley that they can't do anything with. Is the hope that the county, but is what they're planning to do? and tell me if I'm wrong on this, is to get the county to buy these so they can get out of a bad business deal.
Exactly.
Well, I have no problem with people engaging in entrepreneurial capitalist activities, but the issue here is they want taxpayer money. And as a commissioner, I would not be interested in that project and that investment. Our role is not to invest in projects of that nature.
Wow. Joy, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. John, thanks for the answer on that. Let's go to Brad in Denver. Brad, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, guys. 3 quick points. Number one, Mr. Carson, you said, excuse me, that as soon as that not adult friendly show took place at Douglas Pride Fest, that it should be done. It should not have another chance to continue. And then you said being involved in that issue is not the role of Douglas County Commissioners. So I want to know which it is. Number two, somebody said, and I had just tuned in, so I missed who it was, but somebody said it was not on purpose. It was not intentional that there was this bearing of these false breasts that these dudes were wearing. It was intentional. It happened by more than one of the so-called performers at that performance. That's number two. And number three, it's coming to Parker this year, and I hope everybody understands that this has to be. We have to stand against this. The legal requirement to succeed in a legal battle against obscenity is that the obscenity violates community standards, and clearly these performances, if anybody's been to them, there should be no children at performances like this.
All right, Brad,
So
thanks
points.
for the question. Let's go to John. John, your response.
Well, I agree, but that does need to be put in writing, and the officials now, presumably if it shifts to Parker, my understanding is the town council is going to get engaged on that issue, probably work with the citizens and put out clear rules about what is permitted. Now, the difference there will be, to my knowledge, it would not be in a county facility, but that'll be up to the city. Wherever it's held.
We lost Brad on that, but Brad, thanks for the call, and John, thanks for the response. Talking with John Carson. He's a candidate for Douglas County Commissioner. His website, carsonforcommissioner.com. That's carsonforcommissioner.com. John, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show, taking calls, answering questions, and discussing all this. This is important. Douglas County, a lot of growth there. I want to ask just kind of one more question here. How do you plan to take on Jared Polis in the effort to do high-density multi-development all along the I-25 corridor and the kind of press that's coming from the state legislature to tell Douglas County what to build?
Yeah, well, that's a big issue. I think we've got to declare the independence of the county governments. We've got to fight back against these type of state rules and mandates. If we need to, we'll go to court. We're doing that on the immigration issue. We're suing the state for their prohibition on Douglas County, even working with federal immigration authorities. So if we have to take legal action, I would support that. But the county should have a right to decide these type of issues. If we have, a state law that we absolutely have to follow, that's one thing. But my understanding of these proposals is there is a lot of flexibility for the county governments and the local governments in how they implement it.
John Carson, candidate for Douglas County Commissioner, in studio with Jeff and Bill. I want to ask this question out of fairness because I've asked it of your opponents as well. Given that you need money to campaign and to get elected and reelected, the developers want access to the county. They write very, very big checks, nice checks that can help somebody get reelected. How can you maintain your independence when you need to balance out the need to get reelected and their desires for development with sticking to your principles and representing the community? How do you navigate that?
Well, for me, it's not a problem. I am, at the point in my career, I've been in business and law over 3 decades. I'm perfectly able to be independent, make good judgments for the taxpayers in the county. As I've said, I'm not taking big donations from certain groups that want projects before the county at this point in time, so I'm careful about that. But I'm not going to compromise my integrity over political donations. I'm putting a significant amount of my own money into this race. You got to do that to be competitive, in my opinion. But that gives me the kind of independence, President Trump has. I like that part of President Trump, is that people understand he's independent. And he doesn't need to bow down to different moneyed interests. And that's where I'm at this point.
John Carson, candidate for Douglas County Commissioner. Again, the website, carsonforcommissioner.com, carsonforcommissioner.com. John, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show. Thanks for asking these questions. And I pray to God we can have an independent leadership in Douglas County.
That's what you need. You really need
whether it's Republicans, Democrats, it's the thing that drives me the baddest in politics is to watch groups like Planned Parenthood hand the Democrats a bill after they just paid for their entire campaign.
Yep.
Here's what you're going to run. You do this for me now. I don't care if it happens to Democrats or Republicans. Special interests in politics drives me nuts. John, last word.
Well, thanks for having me on, Jeff and Bill, and I appreciate the chance to talk about the need to keep Douglas County strong. It's a special place. We've got to keep leading on low taxes, individual freedom, and the rule of law in Douglas County. Make it clear to folks you've got a great opportunity in our county, but we want people to come and work and be productive citizens and follow the rules and keep the taxes and the pro-business environment in place.
John Carson, carsonforcommissioner.com is the website, carsonforcommissioner.com. Another great person, Gay Ribble. She's going to be in studio, I think, in a few coming weeks. Gay Ribble is a wonderful real estate agent with her team, Empower Home Team. If you got to sell your house, you got to check them out for 3 reasons. Number one, incredible personality, very kind, cheerful. If you're going to be working on something that stressful, you want to work with somebody that can carry you through with a cheerful disposition. Number two, she's with us on the values. She gives back to support orphans in the state of Colorado for a few reasons. It's part of her faith, and it's also part of her background. She too was an orphan. She found her forever home. She's giving back to orphans in Colorado so they can find their forever homes as well. Third, she is a titan when it comes to selling homes. Listen to this. Look, we all have got friends or family members that are real estate agents. Gay Ribble and her clients get her clients an average of $30,000 more because she has a database of over 14,000 pre-approved buyers, pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Why would you go out there with friends and family members to deal with this and deal with all the stress and those broken relationships when you have somebody that's such a pro? Get your home sold. Listen to this unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Give them a call today, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Absolutely fire show today. Merrick Garland facing both Matt Getz and Thomas Massey. We dove into that in the 6 o'clock hour. Diane Thompson, the head coach for the women's basketball team at Colorado Christian University, gave us her breakdown of Caitlin Clark. Is she just famous because she's pretty and white?
She was so awesome, too.
That was a good conversation. So cool. Then 8 o'clock hour, we took all your calls and texts on Dave Williams and the Colorado Republican Party Pride email. And then John Carson joining us in the last hour. If you missed any of this, go to the podcast, 710knus.com, to listen to all those details. By the way, Charlie Kirk coming up next. Thanks so much for listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Hope you have a good day.